All right. What a roller coaster of emotions today, because at one point there was no Xbox 2 podcast on a week where everybody wanted the Xbox 2 podcast to happen because there's a lot of things happening in the industry, and we have thoughts about them. But then suddenly an angel appeared and said, "Rand, I will podcast with you, my son." And I said, "Special Nick, please, I don't want to skip this week." So Special Nick is here from Xbox Air. What's going on, buddy?
Hold on, everyone. Yes, I gave up a family gathering to be here today.
You sure did.
Swim in the pool on a nice, warm 26-degree day.
Yes, he'd rather podcast with his buddies on the Xbox 2, though, because this is his first time. Extended appearance. Last time he got in here by just browbeating his way in. Now he's officially invited.
Oh, and there was that episode where there was like a whole bunch of us on.
True. That is true. But then
what's that episode again?
I forget. It was just
an E3
It was
thing?
an E3 thing, I think. Yeah, like an E3 prediction show. Yeah, that was when there were rumors about Xbox buying Avalanche and the other ones like in 2021, if you remember. Remember? I remember.
Yes.
Nick, do you remember? You remember that?
Do you remember?
Yeah.
Do you remember? Not so.
But then all of a sudden, Cognito. I talked to Cognito, and I'm like, "Hey, you want to drop in? I got Special Nick coming in. We could have a really great show talking about all this stuff." And he's like, "Yeah." So he'll be in a little bit later. And then out of nowhere, Jez is like, "Hey, mate, I want a podcast, mate." And I'm like, "Well, you were supposed to be visiting family, and you were busy." And then Special Nick's like, "Well, why am I supposed to be on? Jez is going to be there. What's going on?" I'm like, "Oh, now it's all screwed up." So now, so Nick's with us, and Jez, and Cog will be joining a little bit later. So yeah, it got all screwed up. It's all Jez's fault, basically, is what I'm trying to say here.
I got back a little sooner than I expected. I thought, well, if I'm not getting back till midnight, it's not feasible. But I got back. Everyone decided to leave a little bit earlier. So yeah, it's a mess, and it is my fault. But we're here. That's the main thing, right? That's the important bit, right, Rand?
That is the important bit. But we're also stepping on other people's toes, like Brisket for the Biscuit. He's not very happy right now. But what are you gonna do? Who's that?
Is he not?
I think
Why is that?
Oh, because his show is after ours, and now we'll be on during his, probably. So he probably doesn't appreciate that.
Oh well.
Yeah, I mean,
it happens.
But the thing is, he's Australian, so does he even count?
That's true. That's true. That's true. Who else is Australian? Because Nick's from New Zealand, right?
Yeah, I believe Nick is. Yeah, you're from New Zealand, correct?
Same thing,
I'm from.
Same thing.
Him as Russell Crowe.
Is Russell Crowe from New Zealand? Today
Originally, yeah.
I did not know.
I think so. Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
I don't know.
So it's good. I can just randomly Google shit, and it doesn't matter because I'm not on camera. It's good. Yeah, he was born in New Zealand.
Yeah.
All right.
See, that's the benefits of not being on camera. Nick is playing Fortnite with Chun-Li's skin or whatever.
Fortnite on in the background.
Yeah.
And for those of you who don't believe me, if you're friends with me on Xbox, or you follow me on Xbox, or if you're Epic friends with me, you can check. I'm literally on Fortnite.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and also check Xbox Live and see what game I'm playing.
What game are you playing? Diablo or Overwatch?
I'm playing Diablo, baby!
World of Warcraft?
Of course I'm playing it.
I'm the only one when he does this podcast. I'm the only one who doesn't play any games. I'm locked in because we got to put on a great show here for the peeps. But Jez is all just like, this is my video game time. So,
but I can do both at the same time. It's not like Diablo takes any brain power.
I know, right? It's
literally just.
It is a pretty dumb game.
What
right?
do you say? Oh, what do you say, Rand? Just click.
But
I'm dead. I was bragging about how easy it is, and then I got killed.
You just got done with your Patreon podcast, right, Nick? Your Nick and Six
Sick and Nick's Flicks, where we talked about the Netflix movie Leave the World Behind with Mahershala Ali and Julia Roberts. It was okay. It just didn't end very well. And we also talked about The Abyss, which was somewhat controversial.
Oh, The Abyss, the movie?
Yes.
That's the only good James Cameron movie.
Oh my God, what?
The only good one. That is a lie. That is a lie from the devil. What?
What?
It's the only good James Cameron movie, man.
Wait, what about Aliens? What about the 2 Terminator films? What about True Lies? Like,
no,
what
actually,
are we talking about here?
Aliens is okay.
Okay.
It's okay. It's not as good as the first one or the third one.
What, the third one? Oh my God.
I love the third. I love the third one.
Serious?
And Alien Resurrection. That's my favorite one. Alien 4.
Oh my God. How old are you?
How old am I? I'm 37.
How do you have that horrible opinion on movies?
What? My opinion on movies is awesome, and The Abyss was great, man.
No, it's a 100% Zoomer opinion talking about Alien 3 and Resurrection.
And Abyss is a great movie, but James Cameron makes great films.
Cameron?
I know, I said his name wrong. You know, I've never seen...
I hate Titanic.
I've never seen
Avatar
Titanic.
is hard trash.
First Avatar, yes.
Avatar is garbage.
The first Avatar is awful. I did enjoy the second one, though.
Avatar's like, I don't understand why that movie's so in the media. I don't know anyone that likes it. I don't know anyone that's a fan of it. It's crazy.
You know what's funny about Avatar?
What?
It's arguably the most irrelevant, successful movie of all time. I can't think of a single quote from it. No one talks about it. No one cares about it. You don't see cosplays of it. It feels like it's the most irrelevant, successful movie ever.
It's just awful. It's so lame. It's so cheesy, and it seems like the game bombed too. So, if it was relevant, maybe the game wouldn't have bombed. But maybe people just know Ubisoft's formula and just don't want.
Yeah, well,
Assassin's Creed with the Ubisoft.
This is where Jez's hate of
Avatar
of Ubisoft comes in, right? And apparently your dislike of Avatar.
Yeah, it's like Avatar plus Ubisoft open world is like a pure shit sandwich. It's like 2 layers of shit just smashed together between 2 pieces of stale bread. I can't imagine a more stale game. But anyway.
But, you know, since
maybe we should do the intro.
Yeah, maybe we should. But since, like, this show is basically... I wasn't planning on doing the show because whatever. I don't really have any notes for this. This is all just going to be winged. I mean, we all know what happened this week. It's not like anybody really needs notes anyways. Or, like, a topic list. Because we sort of know what happened. So, with all that said, thank you guys for joining the Xbox 2. If you could do us a big favor, make sure you hit the like button, please. Subscribe if you haven't already. And, share this out. Let everybody know that we are live a little bit later than normal. What is this? 3.5 hours later than normal? We'd almost usually be ending around this time. Normally, the podcast would be ending. But now we're beginning.
I've got to control, I've got to control my volume because people are asleep. So.
Ooh, okay. Yeah. Well, don't get excited. We do have a lot to talk about. Obviously, the Insomniac hack, the criminal activity that happened, and all the interesting information that has come out from it regarding PlayStation and regarding how PlayStation views Xbox and the sustainability of AAA games and Sony's future and versus Xbox's future. There's like a whole smorgasbord of interesting things to talk about from this one awful criminal, act, I guess. But there's a couple other things as well. So, Jez, we of course have a sponsor.
We do
for
indeed.
The episode. So take us away.
And rock out. Yes, the wonderful Manscaped has extended their partnership with Xbox 2 into 2024. So thank you so much to Manscaped, and thanks to all you guys who bought stuff from Manscaped because it supports us and it supports them, and they support us. So it's a lovely symbiotic relationship between us, Manscaped, and your testicles. And speaking of testicles, here's an ad read all about Manscaped. Ho, 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 gentlemen. Get ready to jingle and deck your balls this holiday with the help from our friends over at Manscaped. The leaders in below-the-waist grooming have just launched their Performance Package 5.0 Ultra, but I like to call it the small gift for your big package. Do you have a big package, Rand?
I mean, you know it, yeah.
Well, we know if we stream the podcast on Twitch, we definitely know.
We can put the censor bars on this. I mean, are you guys going to do that for Xbox Era tomorrow?
Maybe we should. Maybe
like
I'll go
shirts off,
topless
pants off, censor bars on there. Yeah,
my chest.
Censor bars, and then some Manscaped. God, you could do some really great Manscaped ads on Twitch now with that new rules. But anyway, included in the Performance Package 5.0 Ultra is a trimmer as precise as Santa coming down the chimney. The Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra brings 2 next-gen blade heads, perfect for sculpting your holiday do. From taming the chestnuts to grooming the tree. And trust us, it's as gentle as a snowflake on your sensitive bits, thanks to its skin-safe technology. Santa's #1 helper is the Lawnmower 5.0. Manscaped can guarantee you'll be stuffing more than just your stocking this holiday season. Let your ornaments shine and enjoy 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com with code XB2. That's code XB and the number 2 at manscaped.com right there in the checkout. Mrs. Claus will thank you. And thanks to Manscaped for sponsoring the show. Man,
Are they up to the Lawnmower 5.0 now?
Yes, they are. And it is wonderful.
I've still got the 4.
Oh, well, you need to upgrade with our code XB2, Nick. I mean, I've come back to England, right? And because when I'm in Germany, I don't have all the Manscaped. Like, I've got my beard stuff in Germany and my below the waist stuff in England. So it's kind of like I do the upstairs while I'm in Germany and the downstairs while.
Wait, hold on. But your girlfriend's in Germany. Why is the below the waist stuff back in the UK?
Should be the other way around.
Should be the other way around.
Yeah, it probably should be. I'll take it back with me. I mean, I could use the beard stuff on the downstairs stuff, but then you don't want to be using the downstairs stuff on your upstairs stuff.
Jez,
right?
You wash it. You just rinse it in some hot water.
Clean it, I guess. Get some soaps in
waterproof.
there. You know?
It is waterproof.
But it is waterproof. Yeah, that's true. Completely waterproof.
I know all this too because we too were once sponsored by Manscaped. So don't worry, mate. I'm aware of all this stuff.
But Xbox Era is now sponsored by Control, which is
we've always been
pretty good
by
drink.
Control.
It's a pretty good. What would you call that? Kind of
sports
drink is that? Sports drink, meal replacement drink.
It's a meal replacement.
I've actually had it.
It's amazing.
It's pretty damn good. I didn't enjoy all of the flavors, but there were like 3 of the ones I tried that were like, yeah, this is actually pretty good. You know,
Fruity Flakes was one of them. Yeah,
Fruity Flakes was really good. I think I also enjoyed. What else did I enjoy? I don't remember what else I enjoyed. But I remember just thinking, like, man, this stuff is actually pretty good. Nick is right on this one.
Nice. It's very nice.
Very,
I will say, I was surprised to hear Jez just do the ad read straight up. I thought maybe
he
Jez
normally
might,
tries to do like an American accent, you know, have a little lean into it a little bit.
When we were doing it, I didn't do the ad reads. I made up stories myself. I just told my own stories about Manscaped.
Well,
then just doing
we
the
mix it up.
read.
We mix it up. Like sometimes I write stuff. Sometimes I just read the copy.
Okay. Manscaped told me they love my ads. Said that they were very funny. Told some very funny stories about shaving my balls and stuff.
I mean,
I don't want to disturb people with such tales. But you know, but
I do keep myself trim.
They're very good,
and
I
do keep myself neat and trim.
You got to keep Mrs. Nick happy.
Hygiene. They've definitely changed my hygiene regime. Hygiene regime, does that rhyme? It does, doesn't it? Okay. But anyways.
But enough about hygiene regime. We got to give a Shout out to all the wonderful Patreons who have supported us throughout the entirety of 2023. Hope everybody enjoyed the Gene Park episode. We just had him on. It's now available for everybody over on Jez's channel, where Gene says Xbox has a better future than PlayStation. Shocker. And also that the Xbox tax is real. These are things Gene Park did say, by the way. We're not making it up. He did say that.
But there is important, there is important context.
True, there is, but it's supposed to get people to go over and watch it on your channel and enjoy the conversation. You know,
that's true. It's also on Spotify as well.
It is as well.
Oh,
Spotify,
actually, no, it isn't.
Right,
because I think I might have forgot to upload it actually when I just said that. So it will be on Spotify.
It will be.
It's not there.
It will be on. But we do have some shout-outs for the peeps. We got Thurgus, Holy Dark Death, Steve Stompy, Peter B., James Wiseau, Trickster for Trade, The Grandest a Bit, Battered Haddock, Army Dude 52C, Ryan Kipple, Foreign Object, Mythic Marty, Moronic Donkey 99, Makazilla, Randall Thor 19. Yes, Nick, I am a Patreon member of my own Patreon. Silas.
Love my own one.
Eric Gregory, Elijah Vasquez, James Moore, Fantasticals, Halo is the GOAT, Katriox, Bright Tundra 1, Discarded Caboose, Justin Duell, Frank Mariano, Strong Kramer, PB Rokering, Ace and Madison, Grizzly Mofo OG, Governor Grimm, DZ Huffin, Wagerman Achievement, The Scarecrow 121, Darren Tropy, Prof. JJJ, Ghostface Killer, Wolfgang KPZ. Thank you guys so much for supporting the show. And I believe we are going to do an Xbox 2 Ultimate show on Tuesday, Jez? Is this correct?
Yes, I believe so. Unless something unexpected happens.
Yeah, usually the unexpected stuff happens to you.
Yeah, well, it does at Christmas, I suppose.
Well, yeah, it is Christmas. You know, it's funny when Jez was like, I'm visiting my family. He said this to me on what day was it? Thursday. He's like, I should be back. And he's like, if I'm not back, then we can't do the show. We could do it Monday. And I'm like, Monday's Christmas, dude. I'm like, did you forget? Yeah. And Jez is like, oh, we'll do it on Christmas. It's like, yeah, but, you know, will anybody even show up? But we don't have to do it on Christmas.
I think people would show up for a Christmas show. Why not?
Yeah, doing one with Grub tomorrow.
Yeah.
Well, why wouldn't we have done it tomorrow? Is that what you said?
I'm doing one with Grub tomorrow.
Yeah, but tomorrow's not Christmas. Tomorrow's Saturday. Well, I guess you're you're in the future. So what time and day is it right now for you?
Me, it is the 23rd of December at 11 o'clock in the morning, or 10 past 11.
Yeah, see, it's only 6 o'clock at night here on the 22nd. So I guess, yeah, tomorrow would be essentially, you know, New Year's, Christmas Eve.
Christmas Eve.
Yeah. But not everybody's in the future time, you know. Grub isn't, but the 4th annual Gruzmas. You guys gonna have any leaks tomorrow? Any rumor mills, perhaps?
Sure is.
Oh yeah, you got a bunch of. Is it a bunch of rumor mills or just a couple rumor, or just one rumor mill?
I've got one, and I'm hoping that Grub has one as well.
Can you tease a little bit what the rumor mill is for tomorrow? What it could be about?
What platform is it about?
Platform
Xbox?
X.
Platform X. Oh well, that's
that's really hard. That's a really cryptic preview there, Nick.
Well, I mean, people who watch our show and people who get the joke will know what that platform is.
Oh, I don't, because I don't watch the show. Sorry.
So it's a mystery then.
It's a mystery. Tune in tomorrow.
I'll have to watch it then. We'll have to tune in and find out
to see what rumors Nick will say that will be discarded on Games Leaks and Reddit or whatever. Where he's the most hated man on there. Although, you know, we do have to take Nick to task before we get into all the wonderful stuff here. Nick, why don't you play more Xbox games, bro? Come on. Host of an Xbox podcast. Why don't you play more Xbox games, bro?
Don't make many games that I'm overly interested in.
Wow.
So you're the host of an Xbox podcast, co-creator of an Xbox website, fan website, essentially, and they just ain't nothing for you to play on the system.
Because again, one of the other things that people find weird about me is that games are the least important on the list of why like a platform.
Mm.
Oh, that sounds weird.
Yeah,
Me-
some
So
people,
what is
some
it-
people
what
would
is it
say
for you
that's
then?
weird.
What is it for you then, if not the games?
Because, well, I've always, ever since the Nintendo 64 came out, I decided that I wasn't just going to be a Sega fanboy anymore, and I've always bought every console since then. In my mind, every console has good games worth owning. So, for me, it became about which platform was the better platform to play my games on. Xbox always had the better controller. Xbox always had the better
You right.
OS, and they had the party chat, and they had
You're
all
right.
the cool stuff others didn't have. And they felt like a natural extension of Sega at the time. Just with Xbox, and to this day, they still have the best platform and the best ecosystem. There's no reason not be there. But
So it's more like an
Having
ecosystem thing.
me, yeah,
Because
it's a bit more ecosystem.
I think the truth is, like, I don't play many Xbox actual exclusives either. Like we've established on the show,
What I mean.
I don't really care about Halo. I don't care about Forza. I don't play Flight Sim. I don't play Sea of Thieves. And
Halo. I play Halo.
Yeah. I don't even play Halo. So it's like why would it be on Xbox then? And the answer is better controller, better ecosystem, stuff like Xbox Play Anywhere. You know, there's a load of
Good
reasons.
compatibility.
Yeah, I mean, people like Rand might clown you, right?
No,
But-
dude, what are you talking?
Rand only plays trendy games, you see.
No bullshit. Don't start this again. Don't start this BS.
But what my point is that you don't
the
you
dude
don't
with
get-
5 hours on Xbox this year.
yeah. Well, that was a bug, Rand. That was a bug.
Yeah,
God
sure.
damn it.
Say it all you want. It's a bug.
But what my point is that there's more to the platform than just the games. If you are into stuff like Xbox
Yeah.
Play Anywhere, you're into cloud gaming. Like Xbox is more interesting as a platform to me as well. So I get that. I do get where you're coming from, even if, like, you know, you skip the cutscenes.
yeah. Oh.
That triggers me. That triggers me way more than.
Well, the thing is, my buddy
Right.
Maka, my buddy Maka, who Nick had on a couple weeks ago,
Yeah, we did.
bro, he skips cutscenes like you wouldn't believe. But then
Yeah.
again, he says he does it for
That's
his
cool.
job. He needs to get through the stuff quickly so he can make his guides and post them when they're ready. So, like, I understand at least that aspect. Like, I do it for my job.
You know,
You know?
I'll tell you, dude. I bet you more people skip the cutscenes than are willing to admit.
I like it
Reckon they
when
do too.
I think it'd be best if the developers don't give you the option to skip it your first playthrough, and then let you skip it if you played like New Game Plus. So that means everybody has to watch it.
Why?
Because
That's
Why?
because it gives
that's
me
really
because
weird.
because it gives me pleasure knowing that you would have to watch the cutscenes, Nick.
You see,
So you
didn't
want to
see
punish
what-
Nick?
Yes,
It's
essentially.
it's weird. It's weird you said that, right? Because I set up DuckStation recently. Have you heard of DuckStation?
No.
So it's-
PlayStation emulator.
Yeah, it's a PlayStation emulator. So I set up DuckStation on my Asus ROG Ally because and I own a functional PS1 and I own a functional copy of Silent Hill 1, but I don't have a SCART socket in my TV. So I'd have to buy some kind of add-on to get the PlayStation to connect to my TV because my TV's too modern or whatever. But so what I did was I was like, well, it's probably easier to just download DuckStation and create an ISO of the disc, and it was. And I also created an ISO for Legend of Dragoon. Have you ever played that on PS1? Legend of Dragoon.
Oh, dude, Legend of Dragoon.
No.
Oh man, what a game! What a game!
You can't skip the cutscenes in that game.
Mm.
And I was like,
A lot of
I
games
was
where you
like-
can't.
yeah, like especially back in the day, like, and it was just I just kind of like it's a weird coincidence because I literally thought, oh wow, yeah, I remember, because all I was trying to do is test out whether the game worked right on my ROG Ally with DuckStation, and it was just like, oh yeah, games used to force you to watch the cutscenes. So that was like a weird deja vu glitch in the Matrix moment when we started talking about that. Oh man,
Did you guys play Ben Fox?
no, what's that?
The video game, The Last Case of Benedict Fox.
Not yet.
Oh
Not yet.
no, I have not. I've not actually.
I know exactly what
Okay,
Nick's
so-
gonna say. So
It's in the backlog.
Yeah,
of
yeah.
shame.
Rand probably does know. I'm in the credits. Fox.
Oh, did you play
Um,
the Fox?
as an achievement consultant, also as a cutscene skipper. So the developers at Ben Fox put an achievement in there, force you to watch the cutscenes. Like you can't get this achievement unless you watch all the cutscenes.
That's
They
brilliant.
put that in there just for me.
That's pretty funny.
Are they
I have to watch
Australian?
all the cutscenes.
That's pretty
That's
funny.
great.
No, they're not. I think they're from Poland.
Right. That's funny.
So, well, let's get these super chats
Ben Fox.
and shout out to people supporting the show, and then we'll get into these the news, I guess. Aaron McLVT says with the very generous $50 donation says thanks for the fun and I can't say this word for whatever reason.
Quality.
Frivolity.
all year long. Rand and
Quality?
Jez. Frivolity. We've had some ups and some downs, then ups again, and closing out the year strong. Here's to another amazing set of shows in 2024. Yeah, we got episode 300 coming up next month if we don't miss any more. And then, Xbox might even have a show next month too, potentially. What's one big thing you want to see Xbox do or accomplish in 2024, Nick? What do you want to see Xbox do or accomplish? One big thing. I know what yours is. I know what it is.
Can you know?
I'm gonna say yours is acquire Sega.
Probably.
Yeah, that's
Probably not.
right.
That's what I want. That's all I want. I'll be happy then.
You'll be really happy then.
I'll go with something more realistic.
Okay.
I want to get my owned games into xCloud.
Nobody wants that. Nobody cares about
Yeah,
that.
they do.
Do they
xCloud's
really?
growing, baby. Yeah, it's growing, bro.
I mean, that is something they said they were going to do, so hopefully
And
they
that's
can deliver
something
that.
They said that in my interview with Phil. He brought it up again,
Mm.
unprompted. So, yeah, I want my own games into xCloud so I can play Diablo on my phone without having to play Diablo Immortal, which is a pay-to-win hellscape.
You can do that with remote play technically right now, can't you?
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, I do have a gigabyte down now, so maybe it'd actually be viable to do that. I should try it. I should try it.
I just want Xbox to put out great games. That's all I care about. That's all I've really ever cared about. I want them to hit. Okay, if I want to say the one big thing, I want them to hit what they've been saying they've been trying to do since 2018, and that's have a big game once a quarter the entire year. I want them to actually finally deliver on that thing they have been promising for years now. How's that?
I like that.
Because it's about time, right? Isn't it? It's about time. Like,
I agree.
People have waited enough. So
You'd think.
I mean, they got enough, So shout out to B Martin, newest member of the channel. Appreciate you, man. Enjoy all the emotes and everything. We have Champagne Supernova saying, can't tune in live, but have a great show, and thanks for everything this year. Can Sony take some accountability for not securing their employees' information? I'd be furious if it was me. Peace.
The thing about that is, I believe, wasn't it social engineering? I believe, wasn't it social engineering the way they got it? They tricked someone into giving up their password.
I'm not sure how they got it. I mean, they pretty much got they must have had like admin access for everything.
Someone maybe in chat can connect me if I'm wrong, but I think it was social engineering. So it wasn't necessarily a case of the servers were unsecure or something. Someone was tricked into giving up their credentials, which I suppose you could say they should educate their staff better, because we have training about this at Future a lot, because they don't want a bad actor to get access to our Slack communications or something like that, right? So everyone has training against phishing and social engineering, but yeah, I don't think it was a case of Sony not having security. I think it was a case of someone got tricked into giving up their credentials, which you can debate who's at fault there. And if
how does that give them access to all that stuff?
Well, why wouldn't it? If they've got access to, if they use, I think they use. Ironically, I think Sony uses Microsoft 365, right, for its stuff. So they use Microsoft Teams and stuff like that. But if they're like an admin and they had a shared drive, with all these kind of documents in, then yeah, of course they'd have access, and they'd just download the whole drive, right?
I mean,
I
they did.
think-
Reckon someone. Well, that seems weird to me. You reckon they got fooled to giving up like the main Office 365?
Have you? Yeah, I mean, don't you have a central file depository in your company? We do. Most companies do, man.
Not mine, but I know what you're saying. Like we do run on Office 365 as well, but
I mean, they would have had access to all the emails. So if someone had emailed that PowerPoint presentation or whatever,
Yeah, I don't know.
Mm.
I don't know how they. I'm sure maybe we'll find out about it. All we know is that it was some criminals who some ransomware, right? They were able to do. But yeah, we have the Arena Productions super chat saying, "What are your thoughts on Xbox in Japan for 2024?"
Well, they just they did. They had
Sega.
a little. They had a brief interview with Mina Kato, which we talked about last week, and her job. And she's coming in across from PlayStation, funnily enough, and her job is to grow Xbox in Japan, and she's really bullish about it. So I think the answer there is have better, deals in place, better relationships in place, better retail presence, all that kind of stuff, more investment, because Japan is an absolutely critical market, not just in Japan but also in the West. They make incredibly popular games. And judging by the success of some games like Monster Hunter Rise and Persona and not just in Japan but also like Korean games like Lies of P, they've praised Xbox Game Pass a lot and stuff like that. So it's just investment and and I suppose you could count acquisitions under that investment, right? And we can get Nick his Sega if you.
Yeah. I mean, we know how badly he wants that.
What's your favorite Sega game, Nick?
Especially now that Sega have finally realized they need tap into all the old IP and all that sort of stuff. Like now is the perfect time.
Yeah, true. True that.
I mean, I would like them to announce one of these games that they're working on with some of the developers over there, because they've talked about this, about how they have some of these projects. And yeah, the Kojima game is one of them, but they've mentioned in the past how they have more.
Well, we've got the Super game, right? But that's not exclusive. That's just they're just building that on Azure.
That's Sega. I'm talking about I'm talking about what Phil and other people at Xbox have said about Sarah Bond. I think it was this past year where they said they do have some partnerships and some games that they're working on exclusively or whatever. I would like to see, some of those games get announced. I know there's people in the Xbox era Discord who've been waiting for some of these games to get announced, and it seems like it's been a long time. So I would like to see that happen,
I agree.
Isn't the rumor about Super Game with Sega? I thought the rumor with Super Game, or the talk with Super Game, was part of it was Microsoft gave Sega a bunch of money for all these revivals.
They are involved in the Super Game. I do remember
the revivals aren't Super Game. Super Game is something to do with Azure, so it's an online game.
That's what I thought at first, but then I heard that that's not what it is. Super Game is a part of all of this stuff, including these revivals.
I think they literally said themselves it's built on Azure. I think in a quarterly. I want to say. I can't remember off the top of my head because it's been a while.
Weird one. I need to do some digging there. I'm hearing a lot of different things about Super Game.
Yeah. I mean, I
remember what they said.
They said.
Oh, I remember. I remember that there was a partnership. There was a partnership with Microsoft to use Azure for something.
Well, I suppose if Golden Axe and Streets of Rage could have online multiplayer through Azure, I guess. But I was thinking it was going to be something grander, like, I don't know, PSO3 or something like that. I don't know.
Maybe the Hyenas game.
But I also feel like they also said it was a new IP.
Well,
maybe it was Hyenas.
The Hyenas game that was just canceled. Could that have been a part of it? Although,
I'm pretty sure they talked about it again after that was cancelled, though. I don't know. I'll look into it. It's pointless speculating when we can't remember what the current status of that project is.
yeah.
Oh man.
Joshua B. With $10. Super Chat says, gentlemen, according to John Cartwright, Xbox has a lack of characters people want to bang. Do Cortana, Kate
I saw
Diaz,
that
and
tweet.
Corsica mean nothing to people? Forget the Xbox tax. The Sexbox tax is real.
He's not right. I saw that tweet, and we've talked about that on this show. I said that Xbox didn't have enough waifus, right?
You
Remember?
have said that, yes.
And I tend to agree, and people say, oh, what about Cortana? Yeah, but they gave Cortana like a heavily clothed makeover, which kind of detracts from the sex appeal of yesteryear Cortana, I would argue personally.
No, 4 Cortana was good.
Yeah, Halo 4 Cortana. Yeah.
Yeah, but I kind of feel like I feel like the game industry went through a moral panic with sexuality for a little while, and they're like, "Oh, we've got to cover up everyone. Everything's got to be puritanical now. We've got to make sure no one gets offended." Blah,
Gotta
blah,
make
blah,
sure
blah.
all the women look ugly.
Yeah, and all and the men have got to look a certain way, and nothing can be sexy anymore. But I kind of feel like Baldur's Gate came along, was just like, fuck that, fuck that noise. Here's the sex and the stuff. Everyone, even people who pretend they don't want it, they do want it really. And the popularity of Baldur's Gate and the memes and all that kind of stuff and the fun, all that kind of stuff speaks for itself. So I do think sex appeal has a role to play. Like completely seriously speaking here, sex appeal has a role to play if you're making a game for adults. It definitely does. And
Wouldn't
I
it?
think Xbox would be, I think Xbox would be right to capitalize on. But now they've got Blizzard, and Blizzard's gone through this moral panic as well, where they're like, oh, we've got to cover all characters up, no skin allowed, all that kind of stuff. But I think Blizzard will come out the other side of it as well once the moral panic is over.
It's a saying as old as time itself. Sex sells.
Sex sells.
It
Yeah.
does.
It's always been the case.
Who's John Cartwright?
He's a Twitter guy who just had a viral tweet. I
just a
don't know
Twitter
if
guy? He's not like
I don't know if
anybody. He's just.
I don't know if
He's
he's a content
somebody. He's the
creator or
Nintendo
something
guy.
like that. Is he a content creator? I don't know. I just saw his tweet and I was like, he's absolutely right.
Yeah.
Absolutely mega based.
Let's down with the Xbox tax, up with the Sexbox tax.
Yeah.
Right.
Sexbox rebate, baby.
Shout out to B Martin for a nice little lovely super sticker. Thank you. Dominic Malta says, just for Nick, heart emoji from Dominic Malta. So,
It's mine.
yeah. Dominic. Jeremy G says, Nick on Xbox 2 and Grubmas tomorrow. Crikey.
Mate, I don't take breaks.
Yeah.
Pickles doesn't give any breaks.
Jabber Altera. Sorry if I said your name wrong. A topic for Xbox folks. Sony got a complete console monopoly on gacha anime games with Genshin, Honkai, Tower Fantasy, and Arknights, and nobody is talking about it. To Nick, Falcom Wise on Xbox when?
I mean, the gacha stuff's really interesting because I was literally talking about this when I was at my grandma's place with my cousins, many of which are Gen Z, and I was trolling my cousin because I was like, all your favorite studios are losing the share price because of, we're going to talk about this, I suppose, in a little bit more detail in a bit. But China's new regulations about gaming heavily limits gacha games in China, right? So I was trolling some of my Gen Z cousins and being like, you get your favorite games are going to go out of business. Look at these new regulations and stuff, and they were basically saying like that's the because we were trying to explain it to my grandma because my grandma's looking on what the hell are they talking about. So we were both trying to explain to my grandma what a gacha game is, and it just kind of slammed home to me like how a lot of younger generations and also like different markets, they expect these games to be this way. They grew up with games like this. So I think it is an issue that Microsoft doesn't have this option, especially if they want to court younger audiences. And maybe their investment in, Asian companies and better outreach in those areas would help with this. I do wonder if Sony has locked down some of that content and those games into permanent exclusivity deals.
Yeah, but
but we'll see.
I feel like there's more to that than meets the. Maybe Jez, you either won't agree or maybe you know something, but I feel like Microsoft does things differently, and sometimes the reasons for that aren't very obvious to people. Like Microsoft, for example, being the company they are, they're viewed differently in mainstream media. They're treated differently. I feel like with Microsoft, if they start to look at gacha games, maybe they feel like there's more chance that media will look at them. And I'm not talking about gaming media. I'm talking about mainstream media. Be looking at Microsoft
Well, that's exactly why you get other people to make it. You know, like MiHoYo and Tencent and stuff like that. And Tencent just announced that Amazon has cancelled its Twitch Prime agreement with them. So, like, you've got to expect Xbox Game Pass is going to be like walking in there, like, hey, we can get some of that, you know. But yeah, well, that's why Microsoft itself doesn't make the games. Like, they get partners in. The thing is, people want these games. They want gacha games. They want Genshin Impact. They want Terra Fantasy. They want Honkai Star Rail. They want these kind of games, and they expect these kind of games. So I think like Xbox has to cater to every single pillar. I don't think they can ignore this kind of stuff, but we'll see. I don't see Microsoft themselves making a gacha game because they're very different, and Microsoft doesn't have any experience in that space, I don't think.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
Well, Nick, he wants to know about Falcom Wise on Xbox One. He wants you to answer this question.
About him, I don't know.
He doesn't know.
Say that was coming.
Doesn't know.
No. I haven't. Again, unless it's one of those old man moments where I've just completely forgotten, which happens to me a lot. Don't get me wrong.
You and Rand are getting on a bit.
Don't know. Yeah, I think I'm older than Rand. I'm 43.
Oh damn! You're younger than Rand because Rand's pushing 60, bro.
Yeah, no. I think Nick is. I think Nick is like 1 year older than me.
So would you guys?
I'm 1980, baby.
You guys would have been at school together. So are you guys like Gen X then?
I'm tail end of Gen X, right on the end.
Damn.
I'm like the tail end of Millennial, I think, or the very beginning of Millennial, because I was born in 81.
Damn.
You're a millennial. You're the start of millennial.
Yeah, I'm like the very beginning of it.
In the middle.
Let's see here. We got Supernova saying, "Yo, what's up, Rand, Nick, Jez, chat? Nick, what happened to the Gears collection? What is the percentage of release in next year? 75% or less? Ooh, yeah, that.
Yeah, where's the Gears collection, Nick?
I don't know where it is. It's still coming. I keep asking, and I keep getting told it's still coming.
And the year is 2033. Gears collection just gets announced, and Nick's like, "See, I was right."
It's never about me being right or wrong. It's about my source. About me. Remember, my
you put that info out there.
The same. I know, but like
it's your info, bro.
Not to say that it's me being right or wrong would indicate that I made it up.
Let me ask you this, Nick. Let me ask you this. What are the chances that Project Maverick from People Can Fly is the Gears collection?
Based on what I've been told, unlikely.
Unlikely? Okay. Unlikely. Because we know that People Can Fly are working on an Xbox game, and they did work on Gears before, so it was like maybe they're working on it, but maybe they're doing something brand new, you know?
Maybe they're doing Outriders too. Maybe Microsoft.
I feel like
imagine.
I feel like a developer direct happening in January, if you're doing one, would be a perfect time to reveal a Gears collection. Be like, if it's coming out this year, of course. Because if it's not, well, then obviously no. But if it was, be like, okay, here's Hellblade 2. Here's a look at Towerborn. Here's Microsoft Flight Sim. Here's whatever. And then, like, here's an announcement of a new game. And it's, boom, the Gears collection. And it's coming, blah, 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 blah. Because it's like, it's not something you need for a June showcase event. It's not that big of an announcement. I mean, it's big for Nick, but it's not overall a big announcement. It is just like a remaster or remix or whatever. You could just announce that.
Big for me in what way? Big for me.
You'd be
up
4-0 on Jez. Big for you in that way.
Oh, I thought you meant big for me
Nah,
as in I
nah,
care
that
about
expired,
his
man.
collection.
No,
I'm like, I don't
you
care
you
about
That
you
expired.
versus Jez. You go up 4-0. You know, it's big.
That doesn't count, man. Like that expired. Nick said that game was coming like 10 years ago, bro.
It's expired. Okay.
If I sit here and say one day there'll be a new Halo, it's like a surefire bet, right? So that expired.
It's not the same thing.
It's totally the same thing,
It's
bro.
not the same thing. And I've
it's
been
totally
completely
something.
transparent about that. I said that it's the only time I've stuffed up badly and said something I wasn't meant to say. When I mentioned it, it was extremely early. And that's why when people go, oh, when's it coming out? Think about it logically, right? We know that game dev is very long these days.
Mm-hmm.
If I said something before it had even started, that was in 2022, I want to say, start of 2022. Now almost the start of 2024. So if it hadn't even started yet, would you be expecting it out? That's the question.
I do wonder, like, if Project Typhoon hadn't leaked, would they have announced it? Because that game seems to be, they announced that way too early. But maybe they announced it because it leaked. I don't know.
And look
maybe
at Contraband.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Typhoon was Contraband.
Was it? Oh, right.
Yeah.
I didn't realize.
Yeah, so Typhoon was Contraband, and it leaked. I don't know who leaked it, but maybe because it leaked, they were like, we should just announce it. But maybe it was just too early. You know, I don't know.
This is what I'm saying. You'd think that in a world where we know game dev takes a long time and stuff gets delayed and things change, Darkwing Duck, people would be somewhat
Darkwing Duck?
understanding.
Darkwing Duck means things change.
Change.
Wait, what?
And for those that know the Darkwing Duck meme and what it represents, if you know, you know.
If you know, you know.
Yeah. It's not something that really can be explained. If you know, you know.
If you know, you know.
I remember in Darkwing Duck there was a dude who had a wheel for legs.
I really don't remember. I just remember Darkwing Duck with this, hey, things change, guys. Silas, here's a poll question. What happens first? Jez finishes a game he's not reviewing? Jez gets married, or Rand posts a non-podcast video? Well, that's easy answer. Me posting a non-podcast video.
Oh, I don't know about that. When was the last one? Like 10 years ago?
Like 3 months ago? When's the last time you finished a game you're not reviewing? 2 years ago? Bro, I'm telling you right now, you better hope I don't start Baldur's Gate 3 soon, because I will finish it before you.
Hell no, you won't.
I mean, you just better hope Cyberpunk takes me a while, and Prince of Persia is some good, so it takes me off, because once I start Baldur's Gate 3, and if I like it, I will beat it and shame you.
What do you mean? I'll finish Baldur's Gate before you easily.
Yeah,
I'm like on Act 3, bro.
Bro, whatever. You won't.
It's
Dead
just
Planet
like
says,
me, is he?
Is it what?
Huh?
He's like me, is he? Where he doesn't really finish games that he starts.
Jez starts so many things and never finishes them. He only finishes games he reviews on Windows Central. I gave him...
Literally sounds exactly like me.
I literally gave him 8 months to finish Persona 5. And he started it, and I'm like, all right, I don't think you'll finish this. He's like, I will. And I gave him 8 months, and he didn't finish it. And then, so I extended it. I was like, you have the entirety of 2024 to beat both Baldur's Gate 3 and Persona 5, which I guess Jez is halfway through. And I'm like, you have the entirety to finish these. And if you don't, you can't play World of Warcraft for the entirety of 2025.
I'll do it. That's easy. That's easy, bro.
Easy. Dead Planet says, how many games at next year's Dev Direct? Over, under 5. It'll probably be a similar amount. I'll go with 5. I think 5 is a good number.
I wouldn't go with 6.
6?
Just to...
It depends on the structure the show is taking.
I mean,
many did it have this year? How many did it have in January this year?
Hi-Fi Rush, Forza Motorsport, Redfall, Elder Scrolls, Minecraft Legends at 5.
4.
At 5.
So 5. Okay.
I mean, it's a good thing. Over or under 5,
probably
right? I mean, you got Hellblade 2, you got Microsoft Flight Sim, You could put Towerborn in there. You could have Our History Untold. You could have Avowed. I mean, that's 5 right there. I mean, I think there's 5 games Xbox has announced for this year or next year. So you could run those, not to mention any like unannounced stuff. But I would imagine they'll probably stick to like 5. But I don't think it'll be either greatly under or over. Like it could be 4 or it could be 6. You know?
Yeah, I mean in that range.
Yeah. Bean says, Jez, I want to lather you in cocoa butter lotion. Oh man. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Some cocoa butter right here.
Nintendo Don the Otaku says, finally a good Nintendo-centric guest on the podcast. What are you guys looking forward to most from Nintendo and their new console in 2024? For it not to suck?
If it doesn't have backwards compatibility,
it will. It will have back compat. Come on.
Man, this is Nintendo. You can never expect
Dude,
Nintendo
if it doesn't have back compat...
no, Nick's got rumor.
Okay.
Let's hear Nick's rumor.
All right.
I'd already did this rumor on our show. The rumor I had heard is that they'll have one that is and one that isn't, like 2 SKUs.
Oh my god!
Let me guess. The SKU that has it is the more expensive one. Let me guess.
Yes,
apparently. Of course. Nintendo, you can't fool me.
And that'll be limited too. They'll sell it for a bit and then stop it, like with the PS3. Because the only reason they do 2 SKUs is if there's 2 chips.
Yeah, well, I mean, Xbox doesn't have 2 chips, and they've got 2 SKUs.
Yeah, but both SKUs have backwards compatibility. If you're doing 2 SKUs and one has backwards compatibility and one doesn't, the reason you're doing that is because it requires 2 different chips, I would think.
Right, yeah, that would make sense, yes.
So...
if they don't have backwards compatibility, I would hope everybody and their mother would shit on them from great heights.
Oh, yeah.
Of course they won't.
Yeah, this is true.
Of course they won't. Nintendo gets away with everything.
It's the Nintendo refund, dude. Or the Nintendo rebate. Is that what we're calling it now?
Yeah, Nintendo rebate. Xbox has a tax and Nintendo has a rebate.
Tax. I don't know. It's all of it. This is the thing. And I was going to talk about it before when you were talking about Gene admitting that there's an Xbox tax. There is an Xbox tax, but it's not what people think it is. Xbox tax is actually not... It's got nothing to do with Xbox. It's got to do with Nintendo and Sony, but it's their tax, but it's in the black and not the red.
Okay.
That's what it is. It's a positive tax. So I think Xbox gets treated the way everyone should get treated. If they do something stupid, call it out. If they do something good, praise it.
So you're saying that it's a rebate? It's a PlayStation and Nintendo rebate?
Basically. That's really what it is. What I say on our show is Xbox games get reviewed fairly. Xbox games actually get reviewed. They are reviews. They're a critique. This is what's good. This is what's bad. This is what could be better. Blah, 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 blah. They are completely normal reviews. Where PlayStation and Nintendo games, they're more like ads than reviews. It's more about...
well, Nick, you've been saying that for a while.
Me feel.
Yeah.
That's right. This makes me feel so special, and this is so amazing. Nothing about what's wrong. Nothing about it's not a critique. It's just an ad.
Damn.
So I don't bother reading those reviews because they're just ads. They're not
ad.
reviews.
Hashtag ad.
Hashtag ad. Yeah.
Ads.
OC09C Mine.
I don't read reviews because I'm lazy.
Says, first time catching you live in a while. Just wanted to say thanks for getting me through some tough times this year. Keep up the great work, gents. I hope you both have a great Christmas. I hope you have a great Christmas as well. I hope everybody, if you celebrate Christmas, have a wonderful holiday with your family. And, you know, it means a lot to me when people say, like, hey, you helped me get through some tough times. Because I get messages like that quite often. And sometimes I don't know what to say to that. You know, it's very...
It's nice.
It's nice, but it's also...
feeling too, isn't it?
It's very... Yeah, it makes me kind of speechless. I don't know what to, like, properly say, you know, to that.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Absolutely know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. Because,
it's a weird feeling.
It is a very weird... Because I don't really think much of myself, you know? So, you know, when people are like...
Me neither.
Yeah. Oh, we have a lord in the house?
Yep.
He is here.
Oh, praise his name.
Gentlemen, happy holidays. How are we doing?
We are doing good. I'm gonna turn your mic way down though.
Okay, I'm a little too loud. Came in too hot.
Yeah, a little too loud. Okay.
All right, cool. How we doing, man? Xbox 2 and Special Nick, Xbox Era. I'm in the realm.
Look at that.
What's
We're
going on?
podcasting again
Again?
together. Just
Wait,
like last week.
Did we talk about how long it was since we last podcasted?
And now all of a sudden 2 in a week.
Yep, 2 back to back. Oh,
You're
man.
gonna make up for
Jez,
it, man.
what's
Hey,
going
how's
on,
it going,
brother?
man?
Good to
It's
hear from
good,
you. I
man.
miss you, Jez. I don't feel like I talk to you anymore.
Yeah, it's been busy and crazy and stuff, but
I
it's
know.
awesome that you're here, bro.
Appreciate
And
the invite.
I need to thank you and Nick for stepping up to offer to come on the show when I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to make it. So
No
thank you
doubt.
both very much. And we're gonna have a cool show.
Anytime. I didn't want to leave Rand all alone.
Well,
homie holding it down.
I was like, hey, we got Nick's here, and I was like, I think me, Nick, and Cog could have a great discussion about everything going on.
Absolutely.
And then Jez didn't want to be left out of the loop. He saw that the trifecta was going to come and dominate, and he's like, what about me? I'm ready. And here we are, the 4 of us for the holiday.
The four horsemen.
The 4 horsemen
Yes.
are here. But I'm glad that you're here. We haven't even gotten into any of the discussion yet, Cog.
Oh, cool.
So
cool,
you haven't
cool. I
missed
felt bad.
you haven't missed anything. We were talking about movies. We were talking about who knows what we were talking about. We're talking about whatever we want to talk about, but still, we haven't even gotten to like
Bangable
crux.
Xbox characters.
bangable Xbox
Yes,
has.
I heard that on my drive from the gym. I was like, I was laughing. Hilarious.
So Bean says unrelated to Xbox, Parasite Eve remake. Yes or no? I mean, sure,
Oh
why not?
yeah,
Sure, why not?
Dude, that'd be so sick. Like Parasite Eve's one of the games I'm going to put on DuckStation. It was like if you talk about bangable characters, I agree, baby.
Yeah.
Parasite Eve too.
Parasite Eve was easy on the eyes. I remember.
Yeah. That game was just awesome. It was so atmospheric and it was really fun and cool. It's so weird that Square Enix like basically abandoned it. But that's Square Enix for you, isn't it? They abandoned a lot of the good stuff they do.
We got
Yeah,
Ralph
I would
Wiggum,
do for them.
member for 11 months. Whoa, we have Xbox, Blizzard, and Nintendo in the house. Hope you guys have a safe and happy holidays. Thank you, Ralph.
Thank you.
Alexander Davis with a 50 bomb. Whoa. Thanks for making it work. Thanks for making it work for today. I'm curious, what do you guys think of King David's, I don't even know how to say this word, flownification of the PlayStation 6?
How do you spell it?
FLOCCINAUCINIPILIFICATION. What is that, Nick? What is that?
No idea what that means.
I don't know that word. That must be a
We need
King
to
David like word.
We
or
need to
something.
feed that into ChatGPT or something to figure out if that's
Yeah, King standing on his square with that one. He is going hard with that.
Yeah.
King
believing it.
David's got a channel now. It's really
Yes.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yes,
Xbox
Xbox
Frontline.
Frontline. I think Nick. I think King David. Love him to death. Amazing guy. Love him. I think he'll be wrong about the PS6 though. I think he'll be 100% wrong about that, and I am looking forward to how he spins it. Is what I'll say.
Man. I will say this though. His track record the last 3 years has been like impeccable. So it's like even though common sense and reasoning would say no, it's just funny how his predictions have kind of worked out in his favor the last 2-3 years. So just keep that in mind, Rand. But I'm with you. I'm also with you. I always battle him on ILP with that. But it's fun. It's fun to see when sometimes he is right. You're like, holy, I can't believe this thing went down the way he said. So yeah, crazy stuff.
It just,
crazy.
I mean, they seem like they got it lined up for Spider-Man 3 coming with the launch of the PS6. The way it's looking.
Yeah, based on things we have seen.
Yeah. I don't know. I just can't see there not being one, but maybe King will be right.
Yeah, we'll see.
And then we have a $200 super chat, which is there's no words for that. That's amazing. From Face23BKNY,
Wow, thanks for that, buddy.
which I almost sort of think, did someone kidnap you? Because he says PlayStation is scared of Xbox. They following Xbox and putting games on PC day one. Insomniac becoming a Marvel gaming factory. PlayStation is doomed. No PS6 next gen. Lulu Chang got her money and bounced after people were cheerleading for her.
That can't be Face. That can't be Face.
I was saying that, like, is that Face? That doesn't sound like Face.
Yeah, what's that? We got to come up with a code when someone had a tweet like if you're like under duress, things that you're not supposed to say. Kind of, I don't know, face. That definitely don't sound like you. But what do you think, Rand?
I mean, I sort of think he's kind of trolling because I might title the video is Xbox Activision Blizzard scares PlayStation. So I sort of think maybe there's a little troll there. The Lulu Chang thing, I guess we can mention that. There are some changes to Xbox recently. Bobby Kotick is leaving in 7 days, gentlemen. He's gone.
Mm-hmm.
Bobby Kotick gone in 7 days. Activision Blizzard is being put under the purview of Matt Booty. So it's booty time.
I tell you something. For a lot of Warcraft players, it's the first time they've ever heard of Matt Booty.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a pirate city in World of Warcraft called Booty Bay, and now Matt Booty is the unofficial king of Booty Bay in World of Warcraft. So the memes have been hilarious.
So Activision Blizzard's under Booty, and when you look at like the chart, the flow chart, it's even like separated like the head of Activision Blizzard Publishing, and then Mike Ybarra, and then the head of King. It's almost like they're grouped differently. It's not all Activision Blizzard as just one. It's like there's Ybarra at Blizzard.
Blizzard's
and then,
won its Blizzard's won its independence back.
Blizzard has won. So Blizzard has won its independence back, huh?
Yeah, I mean, in compared to what it was like under Activision, but you're going to see levels of investment in Blizzard that just been away for years, because all the profits that Blizzard's been making, they've been going to shareholders, man, and dividends and Kotick and all that kind of stuff. But now you're going to see like what Blizzard looks like when their profits are going back into reinvestment. So I'm so excited for Blizzard.
Split Blizzard off? Will they split Blizzard off from ABK and make it
yes,
just
they have.
Blizzard?
Yeah. It's
Have or they're going to?
No, they have. Structurally speaking, Blizzard is separate from ABK now.
Oh, wow, that's good.
So that would mean King's also separate then too, I take it, the way it's structured?
Yeah. I mean, they're still all under Xbox, but it's not like they're not all feeding Activision shareholder culture, which was always the toxic part of the way Blizzard's gone in recent years. The nickel and diming and all that kind of stuff. And I think Microsoft really knows that, when Overwatch debuted on Steam, it became the lowest rated game on Steam. They have like a huge disconnect with huge swathes of the gaming audience right now. Like, does Overwatch deserve to be the lowest rated game on Steam? Absolutely not. But there's a protest against the way it's been handled over the last few years. So much stuff cancelled, broken promises, and the only reason there's an Overwatch 2 is because that's Activision's style, right? They want something, they want a sequel, they want a number on it so they can, package it up at retail and all that kind of stuff. I know it's free, but that's the way they do things, right? It's completely unnecessary. Jeff Kaplan left, and then all the promises started getting broken. So I'm really excited for Blizzard as a fan.
I mean, that does make me a lot more excited for Blizzard now that knowing that they're broken off.
And Mikey Barr's stayed.
Mikey Barr stayed.
I was worried.
You were worried about that, Jez. You were worried.
I was worried. Yeah, I was worried about that because you got to presume Mike's got shares and stuff, right? I was worried that Mike was going to leave because you got to presume that he's got Blizzard shares, right? Huh?
Is that bad if he does leave?
Yeah, because he's actually a Warcraft player. Like it's been a long time since Blizzard's had like someone who really loves Blizzard games in charge. So like Kotick wasn't a gamer, and I've heard so many stories about Kotick and the executive layer of Activision interfering with Blizzard's plans and all that kind of stuff. So I couldn't be more excited.
Yeah, likewise, Jez. Yeah, for me it was during the trial and the of Activision Blizzard. One of my main concerns was like, I hope they can retain Mike and Rod, because I feel they would really be key in helping with the transition. Obviously, former Xbox guys, and to your point with Mike, he was a huge Destiny guy back in the day. I used to raid with Mike Ybarra. I mean, this guy, the level of gamer he is. You want to talk about hardcore?
Yeah,
this man had like fire team chat systems and stuff in place on his own when Destiny didn't have it. But the game that he used to play the most was actually Diablo and WoW. And you could tell his passion for Blizzard. So when he got the job, he transitioned from Xbox, I felt it was the perfect fit and someone that understands the culture of those titles. So in the transition, them being able to retain him, I think is so important. And obviously we saw Jez when he, during BlizzCon, when he introduced Phil, and that was cool for me to see, because that helps with a big transition like this. And I'm very happy that they were able to retain both of them.
Yeah, but surprisingly, or maybe not, Lulu's gone. Which,
yes, that was a surprise.
Although actually, I don't think I think she was gone as soon as the deal was done. So I wasn't too surprised she's leaving.
Yeah, the thing about Lulu is like her job is corporate comms, right? But you don't really need corporate comms for Xbox or Activision in a universe where they're split up, right? And Microsoft already has a really great corporate comms person, so it kind of, I wasn't expecting her position to remain. But Lulu was, also quite unpopular internally at Blizzard because of accusations of union busting and stuff like that. But she was, she's a woman in tech, and she's a force to be reckoned with, like whether you like her or not. And the memes and the stuff over the summer, and some of her tweets are really insightful when she tweets about PR and stuff like that. Lulu's she's I think that's a loss, but it wasn't unexpected.
And then the least bit, the other kind of change was, I forget the person's name, but there is a new head of Bethesda as well. Do you know the name, Jez?
I can't remember off the top of my head. Maybe someone in chat can regard.
Yeah, so there's a new head of Bethesda. Even though Jamie Leader is still the CEO of ZeniMax Bethesda, there is a new head of Bethesda that also now reports to Matt Booty.
Kevin said Jamie Leder. Is that
Jamie Leder's the CEO?
Right.
This is someone else. It's
is this like replacing Pete Hines, as a publisher?
No. This is the head of Bethesda. This is someone from Microsoft who's now head of Bethesda.
Right.
More like intermarry with the studios. I'm sure somebody in chat will tell us who it is. So I guess the question is, Nick, you think Matt Booty can run all this stuff? I mean, 15 studios, 2 publishers, that's a lot for one man to oversee, isn't it? What do you think?
It is, but from what I'm hearing, he's got a much better handle on it than he once had.
Okay.
I think some of the issues there with Matt Booty was he was trying to do too much. And this is honestly on a smaller scale. It's kind of why one of the reasons why I haven't really completed as many games I wanted to, or even written as many articles I wanted to this year, because when I became a managing editor, I had to take on a lot of new roles, right? Which means other things suffer. So one of the things I've asked for in our restructure is that I get a bit of help to help me with some of that administrative stuff, because I don't have any middle managers below me. So I kind of think Matt Booty probably has a better support structure than he did previously. And you want to hope so, because his responsibilities would have multiplied several times over. And I think that's partially what this restructure is about. So some of Matt Booty's responsibilities, what would have just rested on his specific shoulders previously, they're now spread across a larger team, and he has a team of people who helps him out. And then he's about decision making and things like that, and also overseeing the people who oversee. And I think that'll be a better structure, and hopefully will lead to less situations Redfall potentially, where things slip under the radar, maybe games that need a little bit more help get a little bit more time, a little bit more investment, that kind of stuff. But yeah, I've heard similar things to what Nick said, that it's a different ballpark to the way it was when Xbox had a few years of drought, and then games that weren't releasing in a particularly great state. Yeah. I'm confident.
I mean, there's a part of me that's man, that's a lot. That's a lot. I mean, like, that's more than anybody else's. PlayStation doesn't have that much. Herman Hulst isn't overseeing that much. I don't know who's in charge of Nintendo's suite of studios, but it's not that many. It's like it takes a delicate hand to steer Activision Blizzard, which has its own problems Xbox is going to have to manage. Like, what do you do with Call of Duty and the crunch nature of getting out a new COD every single year, right? And according to Tom Henderson, we now know, presumably, what the COD game is for 2025, which is a sequel to Black Ops 2. But then he even went and said there's like new games for COD planned all the way up to 2027, right? So it's kind of like, all right, well, some people had hoped for that COD factory to be at least kind of separated, or like, oh, we're going to skip years, but at least it doesn't seem like that's the case, at least until 2027. So, like,
the thing about that, Rand, is like people expect everything to happen overnight, man. People are like so like, impatient and think like these decisions are made lightly. You change Call of Duty is a huge ship. If you change the way the Call of Duty business model operates by like moving it to a 2-year cycle, that's literally going to mean layoffs. You're gonna impact the cash flow of those games, and it's gonna require like a large course correction in terms of your cash flow and your expected revenue to be generated, stuff like that. These things are not simple, and they will take time to implement. So yeah, like Blizzard literally announced 3 expansions for World of Warcraft at BlizzCon. They've never done that before. So that's 6 years of content planned in advance. That's normal for Activision. They do that kind of stuff. And they plan the story out and all that kind of stuff years in advance, and they do that for Call of Duty as well. And they've probably got it sorted for Diablo as well. I wouldn't be surprised if they've got like the next 3 or 4 Diablo expansions already mapped out, and with roadmaps and stuff. And it's a good thing and a bad thing, right? Because in one way, you give your fans a lot of transparency. And World of Warcraft's roadmaps recently have been amazing, and I'm kind of hoping that other Activision studios will sort of see what Warcraft's doing and use it as a template. And maybe even all of Xbox's games will just be like, yeah, we'll give you the roadmap for the next entire 6 months, because that's the kind of transparency I kind of want, and it keeps people excited and interested and engaged, right? But also it's kind of risky, because it's like if something goes wrong, then you've made promises that you can't keep, and then everyone's mad, right? Which is kind of like, you can think back to Overwatch 2 announcing the story mode, and then the story mode just basically gets deleted, and then the whole point of Overwatch 2 unravels before everyone's eyes, and everyone's permanently mad at the game forever. So it's a double-edged sword, and I do think they will move to a 2-year cycle for COD, but it's going to take a long time, and it's going to take a big correction, and it'll be a gradual integration. It's not going to happen overnight.
Okay. But you're also talking about 2 ginormous organizations. Like, I feel like people are forgetting at a more simplistic corporate level, ABK right now are probably still in the process of even merging with Microsoft.
Dude, ZeniMax is still in the process of merging.
Yep.
That's what I mean. Like, this stuff
takes a long time.
Like, think about how many employees ABK is. They all have to be migrated into Microsoft. Like, stuff.
No, it's going to be really slow.
Yeah, it's going to slow. And then, like you guys said earlier, in reference to Lulu, we have to talk about the realities of redundant positions in terms of that type of merging, as well as, again, transferring infrastructure and the long tail. Like, now 3 separate entities now have to have one new North Star, and then it starts with the placement, the announcement that Phil had, who's going to be in charge of what. What I do feel, I agree with Jez, what I do feel optimistic is, I feel, Rand, like the Redfall situation actually was a blessing in disguise.
Okay.
Because it showed how when you acquire a publisher and they had projects, prior that maybe potentially they thought they would get canceled, right? And then it didn't, and then they get acquired, maybe looking for the mothership to make that cancellation, so to speak. But Microsoft's initial approach was kind of like hands off, we'll check in, but it wasn't really in tune with everything what was going on. That's why I think they needed that buffer, whereas now Booty will be in place to kind of oversee that. And I do agree that there's going to be teams and infrastructure to assist him with that. I think that taught them a valuable lesson with hands off. Because the good part of hands off is that you get to acquire these companies and they don't feel oppressed, right? That you're coming in, you're cracking the whip and you're doing all this stuff, because that was actually, from what I hear from people who actually were acquired by Microsoft, that was something that they didn't want to involve themselves in. But now it's kind of getting that middle ground so that you still able to oversee what's going on. You still will ultimately make the final call on some things, but for the most part, they're going to run independently on some things as well. So we're seeing them go through that right now, is what I consider. But I agree with all of you. I think when it's of this scale, these things takes time, and we can't just expect them to, flip a switch and then boom, 2-year cycle, boom, marketing all handled by Xbox. Like even with the Blade situation, we're still seeing what I consider, I don't say the growing pains, but the transition process of how this is going to work. When does the Xbox logo come on to Blade? You know what I mean? We're learning it as it's in real time, so to speak.
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, there's just so much now. It's kind of funny to think about like where we were in 2017 to where we are now in 2023, and like everything that was there. Like Phil Spencer, when he was running studios under Don Matrick, had like what 4-5 studios to work with, 5 studios and a really throttled budget because the Xbox One generation just kind of was a disaster. And here you are, all this time later, and Phil's, big bad CEO, right? Not even just like the head of Xbox, he's CEO, Microsoft Gaming. Sarah Bond's head of the everything Xbox, and Matt Booty's like literally in charge of how many studios they have now? Like 35, 36, 2 publishers and 15 studios. It's an incredible change.
It's a lot.
And yeah, like things always move slow. But thank you for everybody that's here. If you're enjoying the show, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe if you're new, share this out, let people know we're live. I still got a bunch of super chats to get to, but I'm going to save those for later because we do want to get into the crux of, what happened this week.
The whole crux.
Yeah, I wanted to kind of start with just, because there's so many facets here you could really talk about. You could talk about the reaction to the leaks, hacks, really, right? And how certain outlets decided to either not cover it or cover it and all the sort of things that went with that. And then, like, the information from it. There's, like, so many different facets. So I figured we'll talk about how, at least for me, which I thought was maybe I just want to mention, like, I think the idea, or not the idea, I think, like, this, no dev should go through this, right? No dev should have to, like, worry about their personal information being plastered, over the dark net or whatever, and essentially have to go and freeze accounts and worry about getting their identity stolen. Like, this is a pretty heinous thing that happened, right?
It's awful.
Yeah.
Crime.
Yeah, terrible.
People need to go to jail for this. And, like, nobody should have to do that. Like, especially right before Christmas, all these sort of things. So it's like, I think you can separate, like, what happened to the people working at Insomniac versus then, like, all the other sort of things. And all those things did come to a head, right? Because the reaction to it, I was surprised that there was quite many outlets out there that decided to take a moral stand, I guess is a way of putting it, by not talking about the leaks or at least not covering them.
Really dumb. Because every time there's a leak now, people are going to be like, oh, it's okay to cover this. Okay to cover this. Okay to cover this.
All right.
Really short-sighted of them. So that's going to be fun to see how that plays out over time. But continue, Rand.
Well, yeah. So, I mean, I guess I'll just get my bars off, and then you guys can go. So, like, I put out a tweet that was essentially like, wait a minute. Now, am I imagining things, or did the industry gleefully cover all the previous leaks that were crimes on the levels of what went on here? Like, I remember the Capcom data breach, which actually included customer information, including developer.
It included us.
Yeah,
us. We are all Capcom customers. It was our data.
That was all leaked. The Rockstar stuff, like not like the most recent one where the trailer was released early, but we all remember the Grand Theft Auto 6 leak from last year or earlier this year.
Oh yeah.
Nintendo leaks from a few years ago. The Nvidia leak, right? All those were essentially done by similar means, and it's weird because everybody covered that. Everybody got their clicks and everybody got their daily hits on their articles, and there's YouTube thumbnails out there. Leak is in every single thing. People love Jeff Grubb leaks. People love Jez Corden leaks. People love Tom Henderson leaks. They can come on social media and say, "Oh, I hate leaks so much," but then they go on their shows and their outlets, and that's the thing they're talking about, right? I just find it so odd that this happened, and I posed the question, what changed? What was the difference here? Why was this different than the Capcom one and different from the Rockstar one? And I think it's simply just because it's Insomniac and they're kind of beloved. Right. Whereas Capcom is across an ocean and they're not integrated well into the gaming media, or as I like to call them, the gaming PR, the San Francisco cabal, as I call them, are essentially just PR, gaming PR people. I don't even not call them journalists anymore. Gaming journalists, they're not. They're just PR, essentially to me now.
But did they ever claim? To
No, they didn't. So I guess that's different. But
I mean, I will say, we're talking about San Fran cabal. Kotaku actually earned some of my respect for all this, because they've been going hard on covering it all.
Yes,
in a journalistic way, and while other outlets were pearl clutching and being like, "Oh no, poor Sony," Kotaku was just like, "Nah, this is our beat. This is journalistic interest, whatever." And they've gone really hard in covering it, and that's one outlet that I would have expected to have grandstanded about it personally. So respect to them.
Yeah, so it makes me think a little bit differently about some of this stuff. And here's the thing, people always say keep that same energy. It's whatever. But if this is how you're going to treat the leaks moving forward, then this is how you better treat the leaks. I better not see something leak from anybody else, and then it's the first thing in your thumbnail and you're talking about it, because I don't want to hear about any deflections. I don't want to hear about I don't know anybody at Rockstar, so I didn't care so I could talk about it, or the ranking which ones is worse and saying it's okay to talk about these other ones but not this one because this one's worse. What are we really doing here? I don't know. I just, the whole thing was just incredibly odd to me. Nick, what do you? I know you probably have some things you wanted to say about this. So,
yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's a weird one. I saw a lot of people saying, "Oh, we're going to cover this part of it, but then not the other part of it." Everyone understands that the personal employee part of it is horrible.
Yes.
It's a very, as someone who has experienced something similar with identity theft,
Same.
I completely understand how terrifying it is, especially so close to Christmas. No one is arguing otherwise. So I couldn't personally understand the logic though behind saying, well, we're just not going to cover it. It's well, which part of it aren't you going to cover? Because even with the Capcom leak, no one sat there sifting through the details of the employees and customers and then posting it part of their news articles.
No.
So I couldn't.
It was a very knee-jerk reaction, I think. And I think a lot of these outlets will regret it, because every time they cover a leak now, even if it's not to do with public data being shared and stuff like that, people will call them out and they'll be like, "Hang on a sec, you treated this Insomniac hack with kid gloves. Now you're all over this one. It's hypocritical, So I think a lot of outlets are gonna catch a lot of flack in perpetuity, and also
I was just going to say, this is where stuff like Xbox tax comes from. This is where conspiracy theories come from.
Yeah.
This is where this is how all this stuff starts. And that's why I don't like it when I hear people dismiss it so willingly and so easily. Because remember what I said earlier in the show, the Xbox tax is not what you think it is. It's not all these people secretly hating Xbox and going, well, let's just write this shitty article about Xbox and let's do this.
Their mustaches.
That's not what it is. It's this. It's the fact that, oh, well, it's Insomniac, so let's get our violins out and play our violins for Insomniac. Let's, that's what it all is. Like, I said it last week on our show. Why, these criminals, these people that have done this, why go for the personal data? You want to leak the game stuff? Whatever, man. Like, spare me the whole, oh, you ruined their surprise. Whatever. But why go for their passports? Why go...
Well, it's a ransomware. They wanted Sony to give them money.
Yeah, that's what it always ends up being. Yeah, the end game.
They said Sony. I think it was $2 million they wanted.
It was like $2 million in Bitcoin.
That's right.
Yeah,
in Bitcoin.
And maybe this is my naivety, but like, to me, when I heard the amount of $2 million, and I'm like, that felt to me like these got like it wasn't targeted. It felt like they stumbled across this loophole. Thought, oh, we have an opportunity to make some money here. Like, we've stumbled across this vulnerability.
Nah, I don't think so.
And again, maybe that's naivety on my part and not understanding how all this works. But when I heard them asking for $2 million, I'm like, you've targeted Insomniac and PlayStation. Why you're asking for $2 million? You're putting all these people through all this hell, and you're doing all this stuff for $2 million. Like,
that's a lot of money in my universe, Nick.
I know, but like, I don't know, and I don't know how to.
Nick's like a rich website owner.
No, it's not that.
Like Nick's like $2 million. That's
maybe they thought they could actually get paid if they kept it low enough. Where if they come in with give us $50 million, Sony's gonna be like no. But if you $2 million, maybe they're like Sony be like okay, you know what, that's fine, we'll pay you.
Protect our staff's data. Yeah, $2 billion, no worries.
I think like the issue is right. The issue with gaming, and it's something I've come to realize recently. They've got huge revenues, but gaming doesn't have the best profit margins. So I'm thinking like if this was a Samsung, right? If this was a Samsung and they'd stolen technical data for the next I don't know, the next innovation in RAM technology or something, I think Samsung easily would have paid $2 million to have kept that secret. They would have done that without a second thought. But because it's PlayStation, $2 million is not a trivial amount of money when your margins aren't great. It's not a trivial amount of money for any game publisher and game company. So I think they if they come in even lower, if they come in like $400,000 maybe, or even less, I think they probably would have been successfor. But people expect that like the companies just they throw money around willy-nilly like it's nothing. Like the margins aren't good enough for in gaming. In tech, it's a bit different. So I suppose like there's a bit of there's a bit of discussion to be had about that. But
maybe there's an element of don't give in to.
That's what I was just about to say.
Yeah, don't negotiate with terrorists.
Because if I could jump in for a quick second. Yeah, I mean, I've been a victim of this in the past, and it's horrible. It's horrible. And, basically it's a threat. It's an ultimatum. It's a stick up. And you have a decision. And based on the entities involved and what they have, the reality is that if you acquiesce and you give in to this demand, there is no guarantee that data is going to still stay confidential. You can pay that entity and they can still sell that information to another entity. And then from there, your information is still there and you're back to square one again. So that's the tough decision internally that has to be made. And I feel for Insomniac. This is brutal. This is one of the worst leaks I've ever seen. When you have not only the internal plans, the roadmap of an entire studio, but we're also learning that we have the information, so to speak, to the mothership, which is Sony, on how they view gaming, the information on how much things cost and revenue and long-term stuff, and then couple that with personal information, which nobody should go through, right? But to your overall point, Rand, I just want to jump in real quick to the coverage, and that's the part where, I'm trying to be as balanced as I possibly can, but I'm of a certain mindset because I'm pro developer. I have a lot of friends in the industry. no one likes that this happened. Like, let's just be clear. Like, no one. That was one of my first tweets when I saw the information. I'm like, damn, like they got everything. Like, there's a bills running around. It's crazy. But on the other end, I had to be objective and say, okay, when leaks of this nature or similar nature have happened, have we covered it? Right? The answer is yes. We have covered it. You know, when it comes to even in outside of gaming, you know, the government, the Pentagon Papers, things have been leaked. We've covered it. Now, it's one thing for the outlet to put the personal information of developers out there. That's just not even journalism at that point, right? That's foul. You're not going to do that. But we've talked about it. And here's the thing, like, I get it. Insomniac is beloved. I love Insomniac. They love them across the industry. They make great games. You know, Sunset Overdrive from the Xbox community. You know, obviously the Spider-Man series, the first to kind of take, you know, a Marvel superhero game and make it this epic event, as opposed to the past when superhero games used to be kind of just cash grabs in conjunction with a tie-in movie. You know what I mean? Like, they really took it to the next level. But the thing that I agree with Jez when he says the pearl clutching, you know, I'm of the same mindset, because look, no one is saying that we wanted this to happen or don't feel bad what happened, but we have to talk about it, right? If you're a journalist, your job is to talk about it, if you consider yourself a journalist, you know? So you got that aspect. And I've had some really heartfelt discussions behind the scene with developer friends who are on the opposite side of this. And they're like, Cog, you know, I don't like what's going on. You know, if I see any of you guys doing this, you're dead to me. And I said, look, I get it, but we have to be real. Why are we having a double standard just because it's this studio? Now, the middle ground where we both met in, because we had some really intense arguments, shout out to Addict, you know, we, him, and a couple of developer friends that we've had behind the scenes, we're talking about this stuff because we're seeing the tweets, we're seeing the engagement, we're seeing it's a very split thing down the middle. And I guess the pushback they gave us was like, well, you know, having it in the title with the exact leaks and stuff like that kind of signal boost. And I understand that to an extent. But on the other hand, I'm like, look, we just saw the entire roadmap of Xbox's console future, the controller, the hybrid. We just saw Capcom with personal information, like Rand said. So it was okay to cover it then, but not now. Like, we have to do our job too. So they understood that point, and I think calmer heads are prevailing right now. And I think the middle ground that, at least I can just speak for ILP LongNet, the middle ground that we've come to is that we've been kind of mostly consistent when these type of things happen. It's like, okay, you know, Insomniac leaking your title, and then if you want to go into some further discussion inside the article, the bed of the article, fine. Because the argument was made to us was like, you know, Cog, you know, a lot of people don't read the article. They just see the titles, and if the details of the pictures are in there, that's fair. But I think that's the middle ground that we've come to as an organization to say, okay, like, for example, Ray, see how you got it? Insomniac hack and leaks. Mm-hmm. They were like, that's cool. Because in the end of the day, it's like, you didn't put out the whole playbook.
Plus, I wouldn't share any of the information. Exactly. Like, I'm not going to show the documents. I'm not going to show the Wolverine gameplay or whatever, because I don't think that's really right. And Correct. Plus, like, I don't know, like, some of that stuff, people had asked me if I was going to make a video about this stuff. And they were like, oh, you can show all the documents. But I'm like, I don't want to show the documents because I don't know, like, that's Sony's proprietary, like, confidential information. Right. And I don't know how they would react. And I don't want to put my channel in. Exactly.
Like right now,
flux.
You had, instead of Titanfall, you had Wolverine running around.
Right. Like,
yeah. That's fine.
Yeah,
right? Continue.
And, well, the thing about this is I think this could be a teaching moment. To be like, okay, security matters. Like, hey, you need to be watching out. As people, we should already know. Like, you could get phished or whatever. Like, you need to keep your security. You need to be on top of this, right? But then even beyond that, I think one of the fascinating things about this is directly related to the secrecy of the industry. Nobody knows about budgets of games. Nobody knows about, like, the royalty terms that Marvel charges. Nobody really knows, like, even, like, how PlayStation views PlayStation Plus or whatever. Like, all these sort of things that come out of this is a public interest simply because we never hear about it at all. So it's like it's a teaching moment to, like, tell, like, one of the big talking points from this whole discussion is now people are starting to understand, because of this leak, that maybe AAA game development isn't sustainable. That you can't go around spending $400 million, $500 million on games and expect everything to just be hunky-dory. Like, this is... people said it. There are people like, you know, I think we've talked about it. I think you've talked about it. Maybe even Xbox Airs talked about it, right? But
we have for years.
But it's like one of those things where, like, oh, who's going to believe us? We're just random dudes with the microphones, right? There's no data because we don't have the information. It's not like movies where, like, you can always find out the budgets of the movies and then find out exactly how much money the movie made. So you can look at it like, oh, was that a bomb? Did that do well? There's none of that in gaming, right? It's all super secret. But now you have a peek behind the curtain. And now you have all this information, and now you can make maybe more informed decisions, informed discussions about the state of gaming in 2023. And you can recontextualize some of, you know, Microsoft's strategy and what they're trying to do, and what Sony's been going through lately, and AAA game development, and what does gaming look like in 10 years? Like, there's a whole bunch of stuff here that I find, you know, absolutely fascinating. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Jez, you're gonna jump in. I was gonna say more, but I don't want to dominate. Well, I'm passionate about this.
Yeah. well, Rand kind of made my point actually. Like, I was gonna say, like, we always know the budget of a movie, and I think part of it is like companies like game developers, they don't want to say what their budgets are because it might inform their competitors about what they should be aiming for. Because the margins are so thin, it's kind of like if your competitors are wasting a ton of money, it's kind of like it would help them potentially to know the full-blown budgets of what you're working on and all that kind of stuff. So I think part of it is like they don't want to you know, give their competitors an accurate picture potentially of what they're doing and what they're spending, because it will inform their competitors like, okay, we have to spend this much money as well, and we have to do it this way as well, you know. But it's different with a movie because, like, movies are just sort of very much 100% sort of the director's vision almost, you know, or the studio and stuff like that. It's a little bit different. But when it's like a technical product, that's quite complicated to make, and, you know, you got proprietary tech and engines and stuff, which can have a big impact on the profitability of a game, you know. If you use an Unreal Engine, which costs a lot of money, or you've got like something proprietary like the Decima engine or something, that can potentially, you know, profitability quite positively or negatively depending on the scenario, right? And then also Microsoft's got its own tech like Havok and things like that, right? So I don't know, but I agree completely that more transparency would, you know, probably preclude some of the discussion that's been going on. Like when people were mad at me for covering it, because I covered it because it's of interest to my, it's directly of interest to my beat. I didn't cover the leaks about the games because it's not interest to my beat. But the Sony corporate stuff is absolutely my wheelhouse. You know, it's like we finally have a true opinion of what Sony thinks about Game Pass, beyond the PR, beyond the stuff they say in interviews to journalists, which is completely different to what they say behind the scenes to each other, and then different again to what they say to the courts, and then different again to what they said in this document. So, like, you know, we would not have known their true feelings about it or their strategy if this had not been for the leak. And it's your job as a journalist to bring that information to light. You know, that is the job. That's literally the job. And if you don't like it, you shouldn't be a journalist. You should not be a journalist if you don't like this aspect of the job. If you're in game journalism because you want to get free codes for toys that make you feel fuzzy and remind you like, oh, I was a little kid when I played Zelda for the first time, so the new Zelda makes me feel warm and fuzzy inside, blah, 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 blah. If you're in game journalism for that reason, get the fuck out. You're not a game journalist. Go and make a YouTube channel and become a Zelda YouTuber or something like that if you want free codes for Zelda. That is not fucking game journalism. If you're in game journalism...
I feel like Jez is attacking me right now.
Well, Well,
So good.
you report on the information you get, so you're more of a game journalist than a lot of these people who are like grandstanding and saying things like, "Oh my god, poor Insomniac, the company that makes me feel warm fuzzy feelings about Spider-Man is hurt right now," and it is terrible. You know, I was part of the E3 data breach, so
Me too.
yeah,
Me too,
so
brother. I was affected. My information was compromised at the E3 data breach. Yep.
exactly. So same here. So like, it's not like I've never been a victim of this kind of stuff, and it is scary. It's like, oh god, who's gonna have my information and all that kind of stuff, and like, I had to change a bunch of stuff, and you know, just take all these precautions, do 2-step verification and everything. You know, you take all these precautions, right? Because you don't know what could potentially happen. I mean, that was a long time ago now, so it's like it doesn't affect me anymore. But I remember distinctly, like, the freshness of that, and the you know, it's a horrible thing, and I don't think anyone here is suggesting that it's not horrible to have your data borrowed. But if you're grandstanding and refusing to report on this stuff, you're not a game journalist. You're a cheerleader. You're a cheerleader with a webcam.
Let's get to the meat of it. And Rand, we've had these discussions too, which is like, you know, a lot of these debates and discussions, in my opinion, is fraternal. They're like little fraternities. And what I consider is, you know, we have to be honest in the fact that, you know, as far as access to Sony, I can only speak for myself, that it's difficult sometimes. It's difficult. It's you know, unless you're Sony centric, or, you know, you've had relationships in the past to kind of get there. So if you are in the circle, so to speak, to gain that access, right? You know, you have to now make a decision. Your closeness to the studio, or are you going to cover the news like a journalist, like you've been covering it before? And what we're seeing is there's a line in the sand, like, you know, we'll cover everything, but oh, not this. And to me, I do have a problem with it, because we have to be consistent. You know, at the end of the day, again, we're not telling people to leak the private information, put all the details in the title, put the actual imagery in your thumbnails. No, we're not saying that. But at the same time, we can't have a double standard. Oh, just because now it is Insomniac, who we feel terrible that this happened to. But that, to me, is where I have the issue. And again, I had very passionate debates behind the scene with developer friends who were on the opposite side of it. But that's the thing I want to make clear, is because that's why people are so upset. That's why you're seeing this conflict right now between social media and stuff like that, because they say, hey, how is this any different than any other time that we've done this kind of thing? So, yeah, you know, I personally just feel like, you know, look, we all have relationships, and there's going to be closeness involved on some level. But if you claim to cover things objectively, if you claim to be a journalist, if you can't be worried about being threatened by someone saying that if you just the mere covering of it, you're dead to me, or I'm watching everyone that's doing that, because that's not consistent. That's not how it's been, you know, in the past. And I do have
if someone said that to me, I would be done with them. I'd be like, you are dead to me by making that kind of threat, because I've got a job to do. I got people to support. You do nothing for me. So why would I not support this? And you threatening me is a bullying tactic.
It's a bullying tactic to preserve that. And that's why I love what Dinga said. I saw Dinga's tweet from Arcane, and he look, emotions are high on both sides, right? But he made a good point. He was like, he helped us understand the human element, how it affects the developers on a personal level, years and years of planning. And I get that. I truly do. I empathize with that sincerely. But he also said, look, as journalists, content creators, you guys have a job to do too. And I understand that, you know, just keep in mind the human element. And that's the thing that me and Attic, we learned from it. And we was like, you know what? Let's look through our content. Did we put imagery? Did we say specifically, you know, every detail in a title and things that nature that could, you know, hurt that? But at the same time, as Iron Lord Podcast, as Lords of Gaming.net, we are going to cover it. So that's pretty much how we came to that middle ground, and cooler heads prevailed. And, you know, we gave some hugs out, some virtual hugs to some people that we love behind the scene, that are developers that are affected by this. And, you know, because I understand what's happening. I just honestly think, Rand, I've told you this, you know, if you're Studio A and you see what happened to Insomniac, the human reaction is like, damn, that could have happened to us.
Yeah.
Right? So you're angry, and you're looking, and you're like, who's doing what, whatever. But if I'm Jez Corden, or if I'm, you know, Paul Tassi or Gene Park, my job is to cover it. You have to talk. Like, we literally just went through the entire Capcom, Xbox's Code Brooklyn, and you know what I'm saying, controllers and whole plans, ARM/hybrid like we literally, you know what I mean? Like it's interesting to me. So yeah, that's the part that I think overall this should be used as a teaching moment. And I think the community will get through this. But to your last point, Rand, what you said beautifully, which is we got to be honest. Like we did learn a lot of things, right? In reference to how Sony truly thinks about it and how they are truly concerned about Game Pass, how they fear with the Activision Blizzard deal, the dominance in the space. And it's contrary to a lot of pundits and things that we've heard where as far as sustainability, the talk was always, is Xbox sustainable? And now we're learning the cost of these games and how they may have to pivot and we have to maybe make smaller games. Like, so the information is actually fascinating. Like there's so much that we would never have known, right? That we now know to make more informed decisions about how the games industry actually works.
Yeah.
So Cog, I have a question for you.
Sure, go for it.
And I guess it'll also end up being a question for Jez and Rand.
Mm-hmm.
Because you said you've had dev friends who are like, oh, cover it, why cover it? And lots of people have been like, don't cover it, whatever.
Yeah.
My question there would be, okay, so let's say a dev friend of yours comes up to you and says, don't cover it. You shouldn't cover it. I won't be your friend anymore if you cover it.
Mm-hmm.
What would that achieve?
Yeah. No, good point. And that was what happened to us. To
be honest, right, in that situation, they're kind of exposing the fact that they only see the friendship as transactional. I will only be your friend if I can get you to do X, Y, and Z, and that's such a huge red flag for me. And it should be for you, man. I'm looking out for you, bro.
I appreciate it.
That's what I mean. Like,
yeah, good question. Go ahead.
Kind of funny now. Like, so Kind of Funny took their stance and said, well, we're not going to cover it. We're not going to talk about it. That I don't like. Yes, they're very close to Insomniac, and but it doesn't stop the hack from happening. It won't be the last one that does happen.
Right.
Like, and I feel like most reasonable people, and I'm putting that caveat in there, most reasonable people respond to honesty.
Yes.
Most do.
Yes. Good point.
Kind of Funny just come out from the start, said, look, guys, we're not going to cover this because you know what? We feel uncomfortable. We're a little bit too close to Insomniac. We're friends with a lot of people there. Yep. We have a really close relationship with them. We're just going to be upfront and say right now, we're not going to cover it. We understand that you guys aren't going to like that, but it is what it is. Take it or leave it. This is why we're not covering it. Had they been just a little bit more upfront, I feel like most people would have responded better.
Right.
Had they just been a bit more upfront about it.
Yeah. No, I get your point. And look, this thing is all about relationships, right? And there's people there's few people in the industry I have friends that I could like consider legit friends with, like Bill Stillwell, I consider a legit friend of mine, right? Outside of the industry and so on and so forth. But you understand that. But one thing that I could just speak for our platform is that I've been told behind the scenes that look, we know you guys are gonna go in, right, or whatever. But at least we respect if you guys say what you say. Like, we understand you're gonna flame it in a way to not be disrespectful, and obviously with the personal information stuff, not to go to that level. We're never gonna go to that level. But we've kind of gained that reputation that hey, we're gonna talk about it and tell things how they are. Now, as a result of that, yeah, we've lost some relationships. Because, it's like, hey, you don't get that email response back anymore because you had, negative feedback about, way something was handled, or you told the truth of how you felt about the quality of a product or what have you, right? That's the nature of the business. But to Jez's point, I'd rather die on that sword because I'm not going to be bullied in how my content is, presented, so to speak. Provided I'm respectful and I'm telling the truth. And the thing that I think we're seeing with this is, there are extra close relationships that people want to protect. And if you do that, that's fine. That's your choice. But it may do damage to your brand when people say, well, why are you not, or at least to your point, Nick, just be transparent about it. Say, hey, this person is my friend. I'm not going to do this. You know, that
Then you can't.
yeah.
But then you get into that conspiratorial content where it's like, oh, they're friends with Insomniac and Sony, but not Xbox. And then because they covered the Xbox leak, and then it feeds that whole narrative that
feeds the narrative. Yeah.
that there is an Xbox tax in some form.
Yeah. And that, I think that's the teaching moment of 2023, right? Because, you know, a lot of, let's be honest, right? It's Insomniac, who's beloved, and it's also a Sony owned studio, right? And we have to be honest. And Nick, we've had this conversation on Xbox Era, which is, you know, I've told people 100%, I don't believe Xbox tax in the way people think it is. I think Sony is just Sony and Nintendo are the popular brands. And internally, people play on those platforms the most. So when they play on those platforms, they're just not as informed on the Xbox ecosystem. Thus, quote unquote, the tax, I guess you want to say, is existed. I think that they're just not educated in the platform enough because it's the popular platform. The others are the popular. That's what it is. But yeah, this has been an eye-opening year, you know, in terms of the awards, in terms of genres, you know, not getting the proper respect in awards, and people not, you know, playing those genres, thus not being nominated for stuff. We've seen stuff as far as developers not getting their proper time, and things becoming a promotional event, an ads event, and trailers event kind of thing. There's still a lot of things wrong, but I do feel that, like, at least we're having these discussions to bring light that these things do exist, and we could be better as a gaming industry. And I'm always going to fight for that.
The thing is, right, that every content creator and every journalist should remember is that the point of this stuff is to serve the audience who are playing it. You're not there to be Sony or Microsoft's marketing department, right? You're there to serve the audience, right? And whether that means like presenting Xbox stuff in a more accurate way because other journalists don't cover Xbox properly and they FUD it and they go on podcasts and say things like, "Well, Xbox has got no games." It's not me saying that, you know. So like, and you know, that kind of stuff. But that's a content creator things to say. And the era of YouTube and social media has kind of really blurred the lines between what the role of journalism is in gaming, or just any kind of consumer journalism, like tech journalism, covering a product accurately, because you want to make sure that people are spending their money wisely and getting the information about their investments, accurate information about their investments in a certain ecosystem. You know, like if say, for example, I knew that Microsoft was gonna, I don't know, like, for example, the whole stuff with Sony, the Discovery programs on PlayStation recently. So PlayStation was going to remove a bunch of TV shows from the PlayStation TV media shop. The Discovery shows like Naked and Afraid, which I'm a big fan of, but then they've worked it out with Discovery, and those things aren't being deleted anymore. Imagine if I knew that that was going to happen, something to do with Microsoft. And Microsoft was going to delete Microsoft movies and TV, for example. And and it was unclear whether you were going to save all your TV shows or whether Microsoft was going to delete them. But imagine if, like, I held that back. I held that information back because it was like, oh, what if it makes Xbox look bad and everyone's mad at Xbox about it? And because I got friends at Xbox, or because I'm a fanboy of Xbox or whatever, I hold that information back. I'm not serving the audience. I'm not serving the audience. I'm being a cheerleader, and I'm just looking out for myself and trying to get relationships to maybe one day get employed by Microsoft. Like, it's a lot. You often see this where journalists step across into the gaming industry and stuff like that, and you know, and everyone's got to do what's best for them, right? Yeah. I'm not criticizing anyone getting a bag. I'm not criticizing anyone who, you know, even if someone's running a clickbait channel, if people are dumb enough to believe the clickbait and FUD, then at the end of the day, it's on them to some degree. But if you are someone who's claiming to be a journalist and be transparent, it's like what Nick said. Just be upfront. Say that you're not covering it because you've got a lot of friends at Sony and stuff. And just be aware of the fact that you might get some blowback from that when you start criticizing Xbox, but you've made light of the fact that you do have a lot of friends at whatever studio or whatever company. And then it's kind of like, you know, it's the price you pay for having those kind of parasocial relationships and those sort of transactional kind of relationships. It is weird, you know. It's weird and murky. And I'm not a trained journalist, right? But I've seen things that trained journalists have done that I would have thought, oh, that's not very journalistic. You know, at events and stuff like that, or conversations I've overheard when I've been in the green room at Xbox and stuff like that. You know, and I often feel uncomfortable by the way some journalists and content creators approach some of these, you know, relationships. And I think you're right. It's a totally everyone in the industry is human, of course. I'm not saying they're not.
Of course.
I'm not saying you shouldn't make friends and you shouldn't be respectful, but the point that when the closeness gets to a point where you end up deceiving the audience, that's when it's bad.
Yeah, I mean, look, the last point I said, I'll give it to you, Nick, because I know you've been waiting. You know, one thing that was a teaching point for us was the Redfall situation, and you know, I remember, you know, going back on ILP after the whole situation. You know, obviously the Lords previewed it, and then, you know, went to an event. What we played must have clearly been on 4090s or, you know, very high-end PCs. And then we come back and the Xbox version is released. And I did say, you know, I felt betrayed. I felt deceived. I felt like that wasn't representative of what I played, right? And the feedback, you know, I knew that would risk relationships. I knew it. I knew that some people could hear it and say, oh, never invite him again, you know what I'm saying? Kind of thing. But I could not deceive my audience, which I was, you know, fairly excited about the title. I just said, hey, got potential. There's some things we're worried about the AI and some specifics, but, you know, we'll see what happens. So I think at least from what I heard, you know, they use that as a teaching moment for themselves to, as far as how to present, you know, whether it be PR, media companies and things of that nature. You know, I can only speak for myself. I can only be true to myself and be real to the audience, because we've built our brand that, hey, if the Lord say it, it's official, or if it's not, it's not, you know what I mean, kind of thing. And we'll have satire, we'll have jokes and we'll have fun, but when it comes down to that kind of stuff, you know, our opinion is respected. So, you know, one would hope, at least in that case, that can translate and it won't, you know, affect other things. But some people, to your point, Jez, have made decisions that they are not going to lose those relationships, and now you have to deal with the blowback that people may not respect your platform anymore because they feel you are going to have a bias or lean in a specific direction when it comes to covering certain things, and that's a personal decision.
Yeah, I agree.
Nick, what did you want to say, Nick?
Oh, I mean, Jez sort of started to touch on it. Like this, how deep do you want to go with this discussion? Because this starts to delve into the realm of human nature, and all sorts of cans of worms can be opened there. Like I just, again, I think more often than not, ultimately, like I said before, people respond to honesty. Like, I just, again, ignore the outer layer. That's the fanboys that are going to go all in. That's going to be there no matter what. Most people are fine if you are upfront. Most people, like someone in the chat mentioned earlier, like in the end, right? Kind of Funny was started by ex-IGN PlayStation guys. That's not really a secret. Like, no, that's not some sort of crazy revelation. It's the wasn't the first podcast they did. Yes, I love you. That's where it all started. It started with that. Like, it's not.
It's
not like it's. Yeah, like it's not illegal. You haven't done anything illegal, guys. That's fine. Like you can be upfront and be like, yeah, we PlayStation's who we love. Like that's where. I don't know. Like I feel like I don't understand why. It feels to me like in the gaming world we live in now, like it's taboo if you have a preference. Feels like it's taboo, really, and I don't know why. I don't understand why it's taboo. Like, if you prefer PlayStation, that's completely okay. That's fine. Yeah. If you prefer Xbox, that's okay too. If you prefer, like, I don't know. It feels like we're not allowed to be adults about this stuff. We have to. I don't know. It's just.
I think it's weird, right? And it is interesting. You know, it's the way I think game journalists and content creators, especially, they don't want to admit they've got a preference because they're worried about being called out for it. But then it's kind of like if you don't admit it and not upfront about it,
right?
Like I will freely. I don't even own a PlayStation. Everyone knows what my biases are. I'm an Xbox investor. I'm interested in the Xbox platform doing better, and I want the Xbox platform to be as good as it possibly can be for myself and the audience and my friends and family are all on Xbox. You know, I don't have to pretend that I give a shit about PlayStation. I could not care less. The only interest I have in PlayStation is as it pertains to my personal gaming lifestyle, and also as it pertains to competition with Xbox. I think that's really interesting, you know. But like, if you're someone who's a content creator who's pretending to be neutral, like it will eventually manifest in these conspiracy theories because no one can lie forever, you know.
That's right.
Yeah, but I will say that, you know, just to cap off this point, I think it's totally cool to be friends with people in the industry,
Yes.
and it's totally fine to like, but also treat people with human beings, and also you have to be respectful with this stuff and talk these things through.
Yes.
It's like, I'm going to be like, yeah, I like you as a person, but your game sucks. And I've got to tell people that it sucks, you know. And I think, and like, we've just constantly have to remind ourselves that that's the job, that's the audience. And you know, if a game developer doesn't want feedback, and sure, be respectful about it, right?
Yeah, that's the key.
I try when I do frame feedback, I try to be as respectful as possible, because I realize someone worked very hard on this.
Exactly.
And like, it kind of reminds me of, like, you know, if you're a little kid and, you know, you did a nice drawing and your parents were just like, oh, this is shit. You know, it's not even a fun experience, you know. But so critical feedback's really important. And if a developer, if you just like, you've clickbaited something and just been like, oh, this is like total garbage and it made me want to kill myself, and you're just like really horrible about it, then I kind of like, I get why that might provoke a negative reaction from developer. But if it's
absolutely,
but if it's respectful feedback and they take it badly, then they never cared about your feedback and your friendship anyway. They just wanted to manipulate you, to manipulate your opinion, so you will give their game free marketing, and that's when it's a toxic transactional relationship.
Absolutely. And well said, Jez, because I think what you said is the key. It's how you frame it, being respectful to the human element on the other side, from the developer side, right? From you, a content creator, a journalist, talking about it, having that respect, but also still being critical when need to be, but also in defense of the PR companies and the developers. Also, you know, when they look at the feedback, if you're like, hey, the game's bad or whatever, but it's like, yo, what the hell are they doing? They need to fire the entire staff and depth. You see what I'm saying? So I understand it. And I know for a fact, because I've had these conversations behind the scene where PR companies, developers, some people don't understand why they are blacklisted, right? Because they have gone to the extreme where you've now made it personal. You've disrespected these people, and then they wonder why, okay, they don't feel comfortable giving your platform that access. They have the right. That's the other thing. Other people think they are obligated to get it just because they are a journalist. You're not obligated to get a code. You're not obligated to get the coverage at all. And I've had to have these discussions where people are like, well, I don't like that company B is picking and choosing. They're cherry picking. They're trying to. No, if they have evidence and they present it to you that you have been wildly disrespectful, personal threats or what have you, it is their right to say, yo, you ain't getting that. You know what I mean? And I just wanted to give the other side of that too, because I saw a lot of this conversation happening with a lot of big releases this year, and people weren't happy with certain companies, so to speak. But I had to defend the company in that respect, because I'm like, okay, I do get that. And these conversations do happen behind the scene, and these conversations where people are kind of put in front of them and say, this is why, you know, kind of thing, and they have to answer that. And you see the results of it. So it's kind of interesting.
Yeah,
I kind of think, and we're gonna move on from the coverage aspect to the actual like information, right? But I'll just sum it up in one of the things that I've noticed recently. I've been noticing for a while, but now it's really glaringly obvious, is just how close some of the journalists are to the people and things they cover. Almost
Was that a
close.
secret?
It's not a secret. No, it's not a secret. It's something we've always known. But I'm saying, I think I think the majority, like a lot of people have come to the realization that like, oh yeah, it's too close. Maybe the lines are blurred between, you know, like, hey, what are you? Are you a journalist? Are you a content creator? Are you an influencer? Are you just like a super fan or whatever? And where does the line, where's the line drawn? Like, you know what I mean? Like if you're GameSpot and you come out and you're like, hey, we're not covering any of this stuff because we're friends with Insomniac, it's like, okay, sure, you can make that judgment call, but now it's like, makes me think that you're too close to that to really give an impartial view. And now I'm thinking like, well, are you a journalist? Are you a gaming journalist website, or are you just now a PR piece for the gaming companies, right? And now it recontextualizes the relationships that we all know a lot of the websites have with the bigger publishers in the industry. I mean, and I think, Jez, you mentioned it before, how many people within the industry eventually all leave to go work at these companies as PR pieces, as like gaming PR.
It's been happening for years, though.
I know, but I think it's been happening for years, but I think a lot of people don't realize it's been happening for years, right? Until...
I mean, part of that is because I think the pay's better.
Well, yeah, and it's probably the job security. I would say the job security is better, but
I don't begrudge anyone getting a bad.
I don't begrudge anybody getting a bad.
Right, but there's this. Go ahead, Nick. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Nick. Sorry.
I was just gonna say, I'm surprised that people are only discovering this now. Like it goes back such a long time. Like I've
but
been
Nick, you gotta remember, you're really old.
Oh my god.
I know, but like I've been listening to Podcast Unlocked for a long, long time, and when I first started listening to Podcast Unlocked, it was Ryan, Destin. Oh God, why does his name escape me now? He went to EA as a writer, and that was like years and years ago. He ended up getting a job writing at EA. Like it's not a new thing, you know. Alana is at Santa Monica. Tina Meany is at Xbox. Like this stuff has been happening.
Paid a lot more.
Yeah, this stuff has been happening for the longest time.
There's nothing wrong with it, but that's why, like, the point is just be respectful to people. Take opinions with a grain of salt, especially when they reveal themselves to give preferential treatment, and just, I suppose, don't take it all so seriously, I guess. Yeah. But we should move on to
we should move on.
I'll throw this one to Nick. Out of everything that came out of this, like the actual like information, what was the most surprising to you?
Surprising?
Well, maybe surprising is the wrong word. Or what was the most damning
none
for
of it
you?
Surprised me.
What was the thing that you hope people like came to realize? Because you say where it's not surprising, but like now more people will actually like understand when we're talking about this stuff. Like something that the headline piece. What was the headline piece from all this? I guess for you.
For me personally, like I love these peeks behind the curtain. A lot of this stuff is stuff I know anyway, but you're not allowed to say. I just find this stuff fascinating, rather than a lightning rod to like shit on a platform or whatever the case may be. I just like knowing this behind the scenes stuff, and I wish we got more of it more often, but I understand why we don't. We've said it on our show a million times. For me, the only thing that was truly, truly shocking was Spider-Man 2's budget. In terms of just personally,
what was it again?
Like 315 million. I think that's before marketing. I think. Stand to be corrected there, but I think that's before marketing costs. Because man, 300 like that. I think one of the documents said that Spider-Man 2 needs to sell 7.2 million copies at full price to break even.
Yeah, they'll
to
do
make
that.
Money.
That'll be easy for them, though.
Oh no! I'm not doubting that. That's the discussion point. Of course, it's going to do that. The first one did 20-something million. I'm not doubting how much it's going to sell. To me, it speaks to Sony's other games, because one thing you have to understand is every time console war arguments on Twitter or on podcasts or whatever, you only ever hear Spider-Man and God of War mentioned. Because they're the only two that truly sold in those Nintendo type numbers. Remember, Nintendo's games sell generally bigger numbers on the whole. Their games are much cheaper to make, which is why Nintendo do what Nintendo does.
And they also never go on sale.
Right. if Spider-Man 2 with a dev cost of $315 has to sell 7.2 at full price, that would mean something like The Last of Us Part 2, which also had a similar budget and ended up selling to this day, I think the number was 9 point something. Doubt it sold those 9 point something at full price. A lot of that would have been a discount after the fact. So does that mean Last of Us 2 barely broke even? Did it lose money? Again, I haven't seen all the slides to know, but that's the part I found fascinating because it finally... Go.
Well, I was going to say, I think we have the Last of Us 2 budget we actually had from the FTC leaks. I think it was like 220. So it was like almost 100 million less than Spider-Man 2. But I get the point you're trying to make, though.
Yeah, like, I'm glad that people are now... Because I know people say, oh, we knew. It's like, no, but I don't think people truly understood how unsustainable AAA is becoming.
So that's like the big thing for you is like the state of the industry, AAA games.
Yes.
The budget.
You have to remember as well.
I've been very vocal on Xbox era about how I'm tired of this chase for AAA and quadruple A, and oh my god, we've got to have the best graphics, and oh my god, we've got to have the best physics, and we've got to make sure that the fruit explodes when we shoot it, and we've got to make sure that all the grass moves when we walk through it. And it's like, why? Like, because all that does is puts extra pressure on devs, it puts extra pressure on studios, it puts extra pressure on publishers, and for what? Like, ultimately, for what? The biggest games on the planet don't do any of that stuff. Biggest games on the planet.
It's kind of like, but this could end up devolving into a discussion of capitalism, because if there is a game that does it and your game doesn't do it, people will think your game is worse and not worth the full price. So if you've got like Rockstar out here about to put out GTA 6, right, that's going to raise the bar for expectations. Now, if you release a game that's similar to GTA 6 in any sort of superficial way, like Cyberpunk was, I remember distinctly, Cyberpunk was criticized so heavily for lacking a lot of features that GTA has. It didn't have the whole crime punishment system. It didn't have a metro system. It didn't have car AI and stuff like that. Because it was an RPG. They thought, okay, well, all that stuff happens in the background. It's not that important. It's not core to the game. But people wanted it to be like GTA because the marketing kind of implied a little bit that it was going to be like in that sort of vein, right? So that's the problem. It's unsustainable because people, they think people want that. And when you get a game like Redfall, for example, or something that falls short of what those expectations, it can be a huge bomb. So like, would Redfall have succeeded with a big budget? Probably not. But it's sort of interesting to think like what people's standards are. But
isn't this the argument what devs were saying against Baldur's Gate 3? Because Baldur's Gate 3 was doing all those things, but then all the devs would be like, well, don't expect us to make something like Baldur's Gate 3 and all the things that they're doing. Isn't that kind of like similar to what you're talking about?
Well, yeah, it is, but at the end of the day, then they want to believe they're making art, but they are making products that people buy. And if people want to expect a game like Baldur's Gate, like for example, I know for a fact that the next Dragon Age will be compared to Baldur's Gate. And if the next Dragon Age doesn't let you do XYZ, if it's not as sexy as Baldur's Gate, because remember, BioWare was a pioneer in this space back in the day, and if they move backwards on some of this stuff compared to Baldur's Gate, people are just going to be thinking, well, this is just Baldur's Gate, but not as good.
Who are these people being pandered to, though?
Baby.
But who are these people being pandered to that you're referring to? Like, you're talking about, if your game doesn't have this, if your game doesn't have that. Like, so Ratchet and Clank was being billed. Ratchet and Clank was being billed as the thing for PS5. And oh my god, look at the SSD use. And oh my god, these graphics are like Pixar level graphics. The game sold 2 million copies. Who were these people that this game needed to live up to? Because the reality was that only 2.3 million people bought it. I was one of them. I love the Ratchet games. I've always adored the Ratchet games since Tools of Destruction. There was all this talk online about Ratchet, then no one ended up buying it. Right. So who are these people supposedly that need to be pandered to make sure your graphics are the best, that your physics are the best, and everything is the best? Because the reality is everyone's just going to go and play Fortnite anyway. They're just going to go and play Minecraft anyway, or Roblox.
Well, that's that. Well, then we get into reductionism. It's like, why make anything other than Minecraft and Fortnite and whatever? And the answer to that is that you make a Minecraft clone. People say it's a shitty Minecraft version. I'm not going to play it. And we've seen. There was literally an article in PC Gamer last week where they were lamenting the fact that the MMO market's basically stagnant because no MMO is as good as World of Warcraft and hasn't been for 20 years. You know, and how do you compete with 20 years of development? You can't. So so it's a complicated thing, you know, and you've got to have new games because you've got to pay your devs.
Same way you can't compete with GTA because what other studio has the unlimited budget, resources, and time that Rockstar has?
Exactly. So this is the fascinating thing for me as well. This is like what Nick's saying. This is fascinating for him. It's also the most fascinating thing for me was Sony exploring how do we offset risk in a world where expectations for the high end are so high, astronomically high, and even expectations on the low end are so high too, because it's like, you know, like if you make a battle royale, like you said, like everyone's just going to play Fortnite anyway. How many failed battle royales have we been through over the last 10 years or 5 years, however long Fortnite's been out? Every single one has flopped. There's a graveyard of failed Fortnite clones. There's only one game that can exist like Fortnite, and that's basically Fortnite. So, and you're never going to compete with Fortnite now because they've got every single license known to man. They're moving towards being a platform, and any game that tries to come out and disrupt that is just generally going to flop. You know, the finals is kind of cutting through that a little bit, but you know, it remains to be seen if it's got the staying power. You know, it's interesting.
Fortnite's coming for Minecraft and Roblox. Everything they're doing at the moment.
We'll see about that.
I'm not saying they're going to be successful. I'm saying they're clearly coming for Roblox and Minecraft with what they're doing. Like, I have a bit of familiarity with Roblox because of my kids. Roblox, like what Fortnite is now doing with being a platform and having all these different modes within Fortnite for anyone that's played it and seen the UI and everything, it's what Roblox does. What Roblox has been doing for years. But in Fortnite, it's obviously much higher quality. But they're clearly coming for Roblox because they can see how much money Roblox makes. And again, what little knowledge I have of Minecraft, it seems like that Lego Fortnite survival mode is coming to try and cut Minecraft's lunch. Like that's what Fortnite's trying to do. I don't know how successful they're going to be with it.
And you have to remember, this is the second time Lego's tried to make a Minecraft competitor, actually. Because they had that Lego Worlds as well, which bombed hard.
Maybe that's why they've partnered with Fortnite, though.
Yeah, exactly.
Fortnite's got that foot in the door already.
Yeah, we'll see if it works out for them. But
Cog, what do you think? What do you think about the unsustainability of AAA games and how that affects Sony and Microsoft, essentially, and both of their strategies going forward?
Yeah, I mean, we're learning, you know, how expensive these games truly are, and then you see them having these internal discussions about maybe we split these up, right, and make maybe I think one of the quotes was kind of like one AAA experience could like fund 2 or 3 smaller experiences, and obviously, you know, the roadmap of Spider-Man 3 and how that could be potentially split and things of that nature. So I thought that was very interesting because these were things that they consider risks. And I believe even Sean Layden and stuff like that said the current market, AAA market, was just unsustainable. So you see stuff like that. You see obviously the Ratchet and Clank information that definitely, you know, surprised me as far as that, you know, all their pillar titles and, you know, how much they actually generated and the ROI and these things. Very fascinating stuff. To me, the biggest one to your earlier question was as far as like, what was the thing that really blew me away? And I have to admit, Rand, I felt a little justified on one of them.
Okay, what was it?
And, you know, because consistently, whether it be on Twitter or social media, fanboys, whether it be in the comment sections of Defining Duke or IOP, you know, we've been consistently told, like, you know, Game Pass is unsustainable. You know, the market is, what Xbox is doing, their vision is unsustainable. And, you know, that Sony has the correct strategy. And again, without this information, now I kind of know how they truly feel, which is, again, not in a court of law when you're trying to feign strength and trying to, you know, create a narrative. This is how you truly feel behind the scene. And one of the slides was kind of about the major threat that Xbox is, the major threat of Game Pass and day and date and Activision and the acquisition of Activision Blizzard. And, you know, how like put Microsoft doing that and having Call of Duty is a major shift, which is what I told people. Because again, a lot of the hardcore may say they don't care about Call of Duty. They don't care about the ramifications of Blizzard and King in a mobile ecosystem, the PC with Blizzard, and then obviously, you know, console. And what we learned is, yeah, they view that as a serious threat. Not only do they view that as a serious threat, it was to the point of Sony considers their own pillars outdated and behind the competition of Xbox. That was fascinating to me because I have been always told that what they were doing currently is the correct thing. So what it showed me is they need to pivot. Otherwise, they are going, it's almost like I've always said, it's like, I'm going to use a street analogy.
Okay.
If consoles, you know, if you're like the local weed dealer, right? And you're the best weed dealer in consoles, that's what you are, right? That's great. You're local. But Xbox's vision, whatever they sell into all these different markets, all these different countries, whether it be mobile, cloud, and Game Pass, they're looking at the long tail. So what it showed me is short term, Sony understands that they cannot do what they are doing, right? And expect that result to have continued success long term. They have to pivot. You see mobile, cloud, PC, different devices. You're seeing them talk about these strategies. And again, I was always told that's not the correct way. And that when people talk about console sales, that's all we need to be concerned about. That's not what Sony said. That's not what. So I thought it was very interesting. And yes, I do feel a little bit justified because I understood why Xbox needed to change the rules of engagement. Because at the end of the day, that console pool, that circle is the same circle. It's pretty much you've been fighting for the same real estate for the same couple of blocks for years. They're going outside of that. And that's why we looked at the King acquisition and we go, oh my God, I get it, right? And you see what they do. You see what the revenue that Call of Duty Mobile and, you know, what you call Roblox and all, I mean, Candy Crush and all these things make, right? So that sometimes to the hardcore game, they don't want to hear that because all they care about is the quote unquote bangers and the big AAA games. But a lot of times the Minecraft and all these other things, that actually funds the experiences that you want. You see what I'm saying? So this is all very informative stuff to me. And I like that it was Sony themselves. You can't refute it now. Now you can't say, oh, this is just Xbox guys talking about what is it, astroturfing points that Xbox. No, Sony said that. And we have the slides.
Yeah. And go ahead, Nick, go ahead.
I was going to say, if I can toot my own horn for a second, and you guys know how much I resist tooting my own horn.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
What Cog was referring to is what I liked about it, because I've been, again, on our show, I've been saying for a long, long time that I actually feel for Jim Ryan, because you could tell that he was juggling so many balls and he was trying to keep so many different parties. Yeah, he was trying to keep so many parties happy. I could see the poor guy was wanting to drag PlayStation a bit more into that multi-plat future with PC and all this. At the same time, he needs to keep Japan happy. He also needs to keep the fanboys happy. He also needs to keep shareholders happy. I felt for the guy, man. Like it'd be a difficult job because PlayStation has done things one way for such a long time and been hugely successful at it. Let's not forget that. So it's difficult. See, and this is the beauty. I shouldn't say beauty. Beauty is the wrong word. This was the advantage, I guess, Microsoft had in being quote unquote third place and not overly successful, alongside being a division of Microsoft that didn't matter for such a long time. Microsoft could just flick the switch to a point and go, you know what? Day one PC. Everyone had their little whinge for a while and they cried for a little bit and got over it and realized how much better it is. Yeah. Microsoft turned around and said, we're going to try a subservice. Microsoft had that advantage where they could do that because they were part of Microsoft. Sorry, Xbox could do that because they were part of Microsoft, which didn't really care about Xbox much at the time, and didn't. It was sort of like, yeah, whatever. PlayStation, yes, PlayStation and Sony are much smaller than Microsoft, but PlayStation is such an integral part to Sony.
Yes.
They can't. Jim can't just turn around and go, "Yep, we're doing this," and completely change their model. Or look, they can't do it, whether they want to or not. They just can't, because if PlayStation gets something wrong, starts to fail,
serious ramifications,
affects Sony in a far bigger way than Xbox failing affecting Microsoft.
Good point.
And I'll add a caveat to that as well, or an addendum. I was reading an article today about Toshiba, and Toshiba's not in the gaming industry, but they've had a lot of problems recently. They've been in massive decline, and the Japanese government said the decline of Toshiba is an issue of national security. So now take a company like Sony, you know. It's one of their biggest tech companies, one of their biggest brands, and it's also like it's emblematic of Japan as a nation. And yeah, Japan's tech industries, you know, it was the rage of the 90s, and it kind of got leapfrogged by America hard.
Yeah. What was that word you used, Jez? What was that word?
Leapfrogged?
Exactly. It's funny because that exact word was in the slide.
Yeah.
That's literally what they said. They said that I hate to interrupt you guys. I just want to focus on that point, because again, I've been told the console market strategy is the correct strategy. That's how you win. That's all you should care about. And they are 3-1, and they're dominating Xbox, and that's how this is, right? That's what I've been told. And the slide said they are in the potential position to be leapfrogged, because Microsoft's pillars, especially post Activision Blizzard King, will leapfrog their current pillars. Then they also worried about the mobile gaming store that Microsoft is looking into as far as Apple and Google. So they have to pivot. Otherwise, they are in a dated, behind situation when you get leapfrog. Continue. I just want to be petty, because I have to toot my own horn. I want lambasted about this.
I want to be petty as well, because I wrote an article a little while ago, literally titled "Microsoft could leapfrog Sony," and I got so much hate. I continue to get hate for that article, but now Sony's out here saying it themselves. So I invite all the fanboys who are mad about me saying that Microsoft might leapfrog Sony, go and redirect your hate at Sony corporate, because they've been saying it even longer than I have, because these slides are not that fresh.
Yeah, that to me was the most fascinating thing to be read. I'm sorry, I had to be a little petty.
Yeah, I mean, you're right, because I mean,
that's fine.
They do have the slides here, right, where that Activision provides incredible strategic value, right, to live service games and scale and mobile and all that sort of stuff, and they talk about, the day and date threat, how, like, Game Pass, putting Call of Duty in Game Pass could shift people from PlayStation to Xbox, could essentially really hurt PlayStation Plus, the impact it would have on Sony and subscriptions there, and all these other things. And it's interesting because, as I think Jez mentioned and Nick mentioned and Coggy mentioned, Sony was saying one thing behind the scenes in emails. Jim Ryan emailing people, we ain't worried. The guy's like, they should have made an electric car or whatever it was, right? Like, they're not concerned. And then they're going to the regulators. They're like, oh my God, our business may never recover. And, now it's starting to look like maybe they weren't too far from the truth when they were telling the regulators that, because now we get a peek behind Sony's finances, and it's not like all, like rainbows and puppy dogs. Like, everything's not like amazing. Like, their margins are so razor thin. I saw something today, and Nick, I know you saw it too, where like their profit dropped from $750 million to like $315 million. That's not like good, right? And now it's like, Sony is very concerned, right? Because they have the slides here, and it's not just like the Insomniac stuff. It's like, okay, and you look at like Microsoft's strategy now, where it's like, you know what? Maybe Microsoft's strategy is the best one. maybe
third place company. Oh wow.
Yeah, the third place company was riding along with day one on PC, stretching out to mobile, stretching out
Not gonna
to
devalue anything.
things on, like apps on the TV, stretching out to like getting ABK when everybody was like, oh, ABK, why? You should have gotten Warner Brothers or whatever. It's like, no, but ABK does things for all the spectrum of all their businesses, and they're going to make so much. Jez told me this the other day. Xbox is going to make so much money off of PlayStation people playing Call of Duty. It's going to be ridiculous, right? All those bundles that they sell. But to me, I think the most like shocking thing to me, and I guess maybe it really isn't shocking, is just how to see the budget for Spider-Man 2 and then to see their projections for X-Men and then X-Men 3, where it really encapsulates something Sean Layden said after he left PlayStation, where he's like, we can't have this like doubling of game budgets. And it's he was like, the game budget's like 150 million. We can't have this double and everything's going to be okay. It's going to be unsustainable. And now they have doubled with Spider-Man 2. And Kotaku wrote an excellent piece. I can't believe I'm giving Kotaku props, but they wrote an excellent piece about it. And they even sort of mentioned, I think it was even like Ted Price was in there, was like, can you see the 3-time increase of budget in between Spider-Man 1 and Spider-Man 2? Is that apparent on screen? And as someone who's actually played Spider-Man 2, the answer is no. You can't see it. Like, you can be like, why was the budget for Spider-Man 1, Spider-Man 2018, like 100 million, and the budget for Spider-Man 2 was 315? But it certainly doesn't look like it's 3 times better, right? It's just like, yeah, it looks better, but it's not like. And then you see, oh my God, X-Men might be 400 million or 500 million. Like X-Men 3 might be 600 million. And then, and as you talked about before, Nick, like there are things like we have to sell 12 million copies at full price to break even. And then you sort of question Sony's entire strategy of what they've been doing, of what they sort of implemented all the way back in 2013. Because I think this goes all the way back then, right? Sony was like, we will let third parties cover multiplayer. I think they underestimated the effect multiplayer would have while overestimating the effect of single player. Because at the time, it was like, okay, we're going to let the multiplayer be done by third party. And they did. And they dominated that generation. And Sony was basically putting out these premier single player experiences, from Uncharted 4 to Spider-Man to God of War to Last of Us to Ghost of Tsushima. And they're winning all these awards. And they have the press telling them how amazing they are. And that's the problem. Well, okay, that's just one aspect of it. That's not the problem. The problem is, I don't think Sony thought the budgets would balloon as fast as it has, while also the multiplayer portion became such a driver of the industry where now all your money is made by microtransactions. Because remember, during like the 360 early Xbox One days, they wanted to cut you off from multiplayer access. Yes. Sony had Project $10. They didn't want you. If you got a used copy for any of EA's games, no, you're giving us $10, play it. They didn't come to realize that, no, you actually want to give access to the multiplayer because we can sell you other stuff. The Overwatches with the loot boxes and all that sort of stuff didn't come really into place until the middle of the Xbox One generation. And then Fortnite and all this sort of stuff took it into the next. Like, they overdrove it, and everybody copied that. So now you have all these incredible live service experiences that are all these making billions of dollars. And Sony's looking at like, we want some of that pie too. But now we're too late to the party because everything is too completely saturated. And now your vision, your strategy of these premium single-player games are now so expensive that... And they take so long. Now you don't have bullets in the chamber, right? Like guns. You look at last year. All PlayStation had to release was Spider-Man 2. And if you look at next year, right now, what is it? Concord? You don't really know. Like, people thought Factions was coming, and Factions was canceled. People thought Wolverine was coming in 2024. It's not even coming to 2026, right?
The roadmap. Yeah.
So Sony's trying to pivot because they know the type of games they've basically, I don't want to say brainwash their fans to really like, but the type of games that they're known for making are so expensive and they take so long to make that it's eating into Sony's profits. It's eating into PlayStation's profits, which affects Sony's overall health and is not conducive. And then all of a sudden, Microsoft, the sleeping giant, has awoken. And it was, maybe they could get away with it if it was still Microsoft of 2016. But now it's Microsoft with 15 internal studios, a Microsoft that spent $7 billion on Bethesda, and then a Microsoft that spent $70 billion on Activision Blizzard, finally getting a foothold in mobile, getting what they needed for PC, and then getting the biggest game on your platform. So now Microsoft is going to fund everything with live service, the area you are desperately trying to break in. Microsoft just literally bought all the biggest ones and is now a part of their family. They're going to put it on Game Pass. They're going to be making money hands over fist while you're still sitting here trying to figure out, okay, live service, how do we do this? And now you're running into problems. Last of Us Factions can't make money because Bungie's like, I don't think so. So you cancel that and all the work and all the money, right? And who knows if any of their live service stuff is ever going to work. Now you're looking at Spider-Man 2 and you're looking at Insomniac and you're like, fuck, can this continue? Like, can we keep on doing this? But then you release a Ratchet and Clank. They have to, but you release a Ratchet and Clank, but only 2 million people buy it. And then, oh yeah, well now it makes sense why they're only a Marvel studio, because you sell 15, 20 million copies of it. So it trickles down to everything that they're doing, because all those studios are emulating Insomniac. They're emulating Naughty Dog. Yeah. They're all in places where it's really expensive. So now Sony has this inflating budget of games. They're trying to sell as many systems as they can, and they are, but the monthly active users aren't increasing, which is odd, right? Very odd. And their margins are
though.
Well, some people would say it's very odd. So it's like it's I think it's these are all decisions, like this whole problem for them started with simple decisions made from the previous generation that I don't know if Sony can really overcome. Like, I don't know if they're ever going to be able to put out a live service game that really is, going to be their Fortnite. I'm sure Marathon will be great and make a lot of money, but when you're projecting, hey, X-Men 3 is going to cost us $500 million in the start of next generation, what are you going to do? Are you going to have to raise prices of games to $110? But then, like, I don't know. It's sort of, right? Yeah, it sort of seems like they're up shit creek without a paddle. And I think
that's the scary part. It's the scary part for Sony. What happens if, and this is a massive if, what happens if in the video game space you have something similar to what's happening in the movie space with Marvel? So Marvel movies that are being made now still have the same budgets. Are they as successful? People are getting over them a little bit. What happens if people in the next 5, 6, 10 years, people start to get over those games? What happens then?
No, that's a good point.
I'm saying
well, that's the thing about the industry. The industry has to constantly find new stuff, because like you can't really make a Warcraft competitor anymore. You can't really make a Fortnite. Those ships have sailed. So you've got to find the next thing, and like the next thing could come from anywhere. It could be an Among Us. It could be a Minecraft. And I think the real issue that Sony's really facing is, they didn't plan for a lot of this stuff, and I think like they often arrogantly look at what Microsoft's doing, and they look at the sales and they interpret that as like, oh, more people are buying PlayStation, that means Microsoft's doing something wrong. But like with Tencent now probably gonna lose market cap and probably gonna lose revenue from these new Chinese regulations, it's certainly feasible for the first time ever that Microsoft could be the biggest gaming company in the world by the end of next year. It's certainly feasible for the first time ever. And it'll be completely based on a strategy that the media hated, that everyone claims online to hate, that Sony publicly said is bad in interviews. And now they're going to have to sort of pivot and sort of follow along, potentially, if these documents are still relevant, and I really think they are.
I don't think they can. That's the problem. They've painted themselves into a little bit of a corner, and I understand why Microsoft fell into the same trap during the 360 era. Microsoft saw Halo Gears Forza was what was working, so they just leaned very heavily into it. And we're now in 2023, and we're only now starting to see the result of turning away from the Halo Gears Forza. This, like we were talking about earlier, this stuff doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah.
So Sony's pivoting, not going to see the fruit of that labor for a long, long time.
Yeah.
It's not like they're not just, Sony are leaning so heavily into that style of game that they bought a studio known for doing something completely different and put them on that type of game with Returnal. I adored Housemarque for the longest time. I love Dead Nation. I love Super Stardust HD. I like Outland. Housemarque was known for a certain thing. Get bought by Sony, and what do? Person
and then
over the shoulder action.
Yeah, sorry.
I don't know. No, go.
No, I was just gonna say I understand your point too, and then obviously learning that for all intents and purposes, Insomniac will be the Marvel studio, right? So the pivot there for the revenue. To Rand's point, as far as the live service, I agree. I think that even though a lot of PlayStation fans didn't want to hear it, I did feel pivoting to live service was the correct move, because you still have to, with the ballooning budgets of these games, of these hashtag just one, so to speak, you have to get revenue. And I think to your earlier point, Rand, when you're on fire, is that we have to all be honest. They thought, and we thought, like, never in a million years could Activision be available to be acquired.
Yeah.
That was something that they were so
beyond my wildest dreams.
Exactly. All of us, right? Because, we all had our ideas and speculation.
I still remember when you called me that morning to wake me up.
Yeah, right. It just shook the earth. And it was one of those things that fell in their lap, and, they took full advantage of it. And this will be tied to Phil's legacy, right? As far as, this at building that future roadmap for Xbox. But I think to Sony's point, like, this is literally, not to be graphic, but this is their worst nightmare. They were counting on that as revenue just existing on that platform. On their platform, just getting that revenue. They wouldn't have to worry about that. They'd focus on these big experiences. And now we're seeing what's going on. Now we're seeing the pivot. And then the other thing I did want to mention and give it back to you, Rand, was just the, obviously with things ballooning the way they are, potential layoffs, could be happening in Insomniac. Also, a studio closure.
Yeah, there was that Firewall studio who made that Firewall Ultra game. They just recently closed. But yeah, I was talking to one of my buddies, and I was just like, he was like, "Are you mean to tell me that Insomniac might have to lay off 50 to 75 people, even though they just put out Spider-Man 2, which is going to be insanely successful, and that's still not enough? That Sony's still asking studios for cost-cutting measures?"
Yeah. Well, there was confusion as to the timing of that.
Did I tell you that I'd heard Sony was telling studios to reduce costs?
Yeah, you told me about that. Which was we saw. I mean, they canceled games. The studios. There's I think they shut down Pixel Plus. Which we had been hearing that there was a lot of cost cutting going on, because who took over from Jim was basically the CEO of Sony, right? The penny pincher, essentially. And, he's seeing all this stuff. He's going in there. Like, it doesn't matter that Insomniac's like the studio and the one that is basically carrying PlayStation on its fucking back, right?
Facts. An understatement.
Carrying them on their back. It doesn't matter. Guess what? You got to lay people off, right? Money's money. Business is business. And it just really speaks to, like, holy shit. Now, granted, Microsoft laid off 10,000 people earlier this year, and 343 went through some shit.
True.
They lost some people, so, it happens to the best of them. But at least with 343, you could maybe be like, Halo Infinite was a failure, right? Mm-hmm. Like, it didn't meet the expectations. Are you mean to tell me that Spider-Man 2 didn't meet expectations? Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a sort of difference there. It's like, it makes you sort of look at PlayStation, and you're like, I don't know. And then we've seen some of the slides. They want to bring PlayStation Plus everywhere. They want to bring PlayStation Plus to PC. They want to bring it to smart apps on TVs. They want to bring it to mobile. How many times did we say that PlayStation was going to copy the Xbox handbook.
Here we
And,
go.
and then all the PlayStation fans, and all the PlayStation fans would say, "You mean to tell me that PlayStation third place is gonna follow first place, gonna follow third place?" Remember, that was all they said. It was the parroting they all said. Like, you know what I mean?
You sound like Francis.
No, it's like, why would first place follow third place? Are you fucking stupid? And it's like, bro, this is exactly what's going to happen. And sure enough, weep and read it. That's exactly their plans. They're going to go day and date on PC eventually. They're going to have to. Because what are you going to do to make up all this revenue? They may not go day and date on, PlayStation Plus or whatever, but they're going to go day and date on PC. They're going to bring it everywhere. Who knows what the video game industry even looks like in 10 years? We might even see PlayStation games on Xbox and Xbox games on PlayStation at that point. I don't even know, because it's all so fluid, because everything is out of control. The budgets are out of control. So what do you do? What, like, do you double down on the big experiences, hoping that it drives people to the platforms so that they then go spend money? Or do you all right, instead of making one big game, we make two mid-sized games? But then people are always on Xbox for putting out the AA experiences that they sometimes do. And I don't know the right answer. I don't know. I mean, I'm just saying
You're on the right track. You're on the right track. It's what I said a couple of weeks ago. They've already built the assets. Sony, the way Jim is doing it, I believe. I mean, I know he's leaving now. The way Jim is doing it, I believe, is the right way to do it within the restrictions that he's dealing with. I think it's the right way. At the same time, they can't stop the banger. They can't stop doing that now. It's too late. It's beyond the point of no return for Sony now. They have to keep making those games. So how do you because remember, people used to laugh. Don't you remember those the data that used to come out, and Ubisoft used to say, oh, we actually make more dollars per player on Xbox than we do PlayStation, despite the fact that PlayStation's so much bigger. And everyone used to be like, oh, how's that possible? And they used to laugh, and they used to think it was made up and all that sort of stuff. Microsoft has always been good at extracting the most amount of money. Basically, Microsoft has always been the best at squeezing blood from a stone.
Yeah.
It's the easiest way to say it. We're always good at it.
Well,
but
there's a bunch of aspects to this that Sony could easily rectify. And launching games day and date on PC is an easy one, right? Like if you're playing a game like Diablo and you've got loads of different abilities you can improve, you try to make them overlap, right?
I just need to shout out Sea Lord of Bravas, who dropped an incredible $200 super chat.
Wow.
I know I was going to read all these later, but I had to read it now. He says, as it is a season for gratitude and generosity, let this super chat reflect the appreciation that I have for the work that Rand and Jez do for the Xbox community. And I know I'm hardly alone in being very thankful for this podcast. Here's an excellent 2024 for Xbox. So thank you very much, Sea Lord. One of the members of maybe the only worthy thread over at Reset Era on the Xbox side of things, the Xbox thread. Otherwise, Reset Era is.
I banned our friend Tom Warren.
Oh, well, I think he got access to his thing now. Oh, dude, he really angered a lot of the PlayStation fanboys over there. Holy shit!
Oh man, did he ever?
Oh my lord! But go ahead, Jez.
I didn't even know.
Well, I was just saying that if you're playing an RPG like Diablo, right? You try and overlap your abilities. You get an affix. You get two affixes that improve one ability. You overlap them, so you get double bonus. So that's why Sony not releasing games day and day on PC is really dumb. If you're spending all this marketing, if you're putting in all this marketing spend, right, to hype up your game, and then you're not putting it day and day on PC, you're not going to have any marketing for when you do come to put it on PC. And that's why a lot of Sony games just don't hit on PC, because all the marketing orients around PlayStation, which is not where the margins is. The margins selling games, which is so weird to me. And it feels like it's taken Sony a while to I think that it's honestly, I feel like it's ego. They don't want to capitulate to the power of Steam and the power of Gabe and admit the fact that in order to make use of that massive marketing budget, really, the game's got to be in as many places feasibly as possible. And PC gamers, they're not interested in buying a PlayStation, you know. So like you get so much more out of the marketing budget if you did put it day and day, and you know, and people like me would get on that board.
I do wonder if like the answer is just no, we just need to make smaller games with a smaller budget. But then like
but then everyone hates Microsoft for doing that. Pentiment got clowned.
No. The path that they should go on, and they've already started with Valhalla. They've already built the tentpole. You've already built the AAA game, the Spider-Man, the God of War, the Horizon. As a way to help, I guess, alleviate the pressure they're under in terms of having to pivot, there's nothing stopping them doing the smaller expand-alone, the Hive Busters, the infamous First Light. That's why there was
Uncharted Lost Legacy.
They've done a really good job of that. That's one thing they've done really, really well at is those expand.
They need to do more of it.
Yeah, Microsoft needs to do that too.
They do. I love those expand-alones. Like I've said, my favorite Forza Horizon game is... Yeah, Hive Busters was fantastic. And my favorite Forza Horizon game is the Fast and the Furious one. It was nice and small. It was focused. It wasn't bloated. Like, I think part of the issue with the expand-alones is maybe some people are burned by Miles Morales, which was effectively an expand-alone that was being charged full price.
But it did also in the documents. It had the best margins by a mile.
Of course it did, because it was made cheaply and sold at full price. So of course it had the best margins, and they could get away with it because it was Spider-Man.
It made an absurd on PC at least. It did really, really well.
Because it was Spider-Man.
Yeah.
That's why they're leaning into Marvel now.
Yeah.
It's Marvel.
But then you got Marvel. You eating into your own margins.
Yeah, you seen that, Jez?
You have to pay, and we saw how much money they have to pay Marvel for the privilege, and also precluding Xbox from X-Men for the next 10 years, which is hilarious. But then Xbox
I'm surprised there isn't more talk about that. I'm surprised that, like, to me, that when I saw X-Men was being made by Insomniac, I'm like, whoa, we're finally getting the X-Men game that people have been wanting for how long? I'm surprised there wasn't more talk about that.
Well, because roadmaps can change, right? I mean, on one of the roadmaps, Venom's on there, and another roadmap, Venom's not on there. So is Venom actually being made? At one point, maybe it was, and now it's not. I mean, I saw Jason Schreier said that the Spider-Man multiplayer game was canceled, and it was canceled a while ago, right?
Isn't that funny? So I had mentioned that I had heard there was going to be exclusive Marvel multiplayer game, and my source had speculated that it was being made by Insomniac.
And it looks like
Looks like whatever they heard was spot on.
But it got canceled, you know, when Sony...
That's right.
Like, it's funny to me, you know, you mentioned Jim. Like, Jim Ryan to me kind of like a baller here, because Jim Ryan comes in. Like, Jim Ryan gets the job because he basically turned Sony Europe into a fort that Xbox can't attack, right? They basically run Europe. Well, Nintendo too, but they don't view Nintendo as competition. But we'll see how that changes with the Switch. Like, Sony Europe is unassailable. I mean, we've seen the problems Xbox have with selling consoles in Europe. It's pretty bad, right? But PlayStation has no problem selling consoles there. So Jim gets the job. Sean Layden gets the boot, right? So Jim's like, okay, but we're going to have to change some things. We need some live service, and we're not going to curtail like some of the spending on first-party games like Sean wanted. But now, like, okay, your closest competitor just bought ABK, and the live service push isn't going well, and guess what? You retire, and you'll never fucking see any of the repercussions from your actions. It's going to be someone else's problem, right? Whoever heads up Sony next, it's going to be his problem to figure out what to do with Xbox owning ABK. It's going to be his problem to figure out what to do with the live service, on all the money they've dumped into it and all the revenue they expected to get. What is the pivot? Now it's someone else's fault. Jim Ryan's just like, pieces, deuces, later, I'm out. and he just rides off into the sunset. And none of the repercussions of his actions he will ever have to face. At least with Phil, you know, Phil's been in place since 2004. like decisions he make, he has to face them, right? He's been in that position. Well, not 2004, 2014. So, but he's been in the position where it's like my choices and my decisions are going to affect me. Jim's like, I'm out of here. It's someone else's problem. And I'm not saying like, I'm not saying PlayStation is dying. I'm saying when you look at it, they have some serious internal problems. But the one thing that PlayStation at least has going for them right now is that they're basically the default console. If you want a gaming console, you get a PlayStation 5. Doesn't matter if you're not playing anything on it. Doesn't matter if you only play FIFA or Madden, you don't really do anything else. That's what you're getting. And that sort of helps them, because I think most of the people who own a PlayStation don't even care about their exclusives. So they don't even care about the lack of first party roadmap from them. They don't even care about the lack of live service from them, because they got all they need from the third parties that are serving the system as is, right? So there's
That's why they panicked over COD.
Yeah, that's why that was so important.
We've been saying it for the longest time. Everyone keeps laughing at me when I say no one buys Xboxes or PlayStations for exclusives. The only console that sells for its exclusives is Nintendo. They're the only ones. Other two don't. They never have. Outside of your exceptions, I'm not going to say that no one's ever bought a PlayStation for Spider-Man. I know people directly that have bought PlayStations for Spider-Man. Another reason why they're leaning so heavily into Marvel. But in the end, if exclusives sold consoles, the Wii U wouldn't have flopped. The Dreamcast wouldn't have flopped. The Xbox One would have sold better than the PS4 for the first couple of years. Exclusives were what sold these consoles. Once that momentum starts, it's extremely difficult to arrest.
Yeah.
Like Rand just said, PlayStation's just the default now. They're not buying it because, oh my God, Last of Us Part 2. No, they're buying it because all their friends are there and they all play COD together. They all play FIFA together, or they all play Fortnite together.
But that's the thing. That's the thing. PlayStation's the default for people who have PlayStation. Their actual, active users isn't really increasing. So, like, what does that say? They're selling PS5s to PS4 players, whereas Xbox's market share isn't actually decreasing either. So, like, if you look at the sales, no, Xbox's market share is going up.
Their market share, or their monthly active users.
Hold on.
Their console engagement figures are up.
Yeah.
Satya said that at the last earnings call, that their console engagement figures, right? So
console sales are down.
The console sales of the Xbox Series S and X are down year over year, but the console engagement is up, which means that they're not exactly losing market share. It just means that Xbox One owners who are still playing Call of Duty, still playing FIFA, still playing Minecraft, and still playing Roblox or whatever, they're just not upgrading. So Sony's upgrading its PS4 fan base and its PS4 user base more quickly than Xbox is upgrading the Xbox One user base to Xbox Series S and X, but they're not exactly ceding market share in the process. So it's still like the default is different for everyone. And yes, PlayStation's the default for a lot of people, but like Phil said, kind of funny interview, people are digitally locked in now. Yeah. So like a lot of those Xbox One users, they're like, yeah, I'm just going to wait. I'll switch when I can. And that's why GTA 6 is going to be such an event, because it's the first real zeitgeist kind of game that isn't coming to PC, and it's only coming to PS5 and Xbox Series S and X. And I bet you'll see a lot of Xbox One users upgrade to Xbox Series S and X, because that's probably for them the first real reason to have done so, because Call of Duty still launches on last gen, FIFA still launches on last gen, and all those FIFA and Call of Duty kind of players, they will play GTA. They will upgrade for that. All those GTA Online players that are still playing on PS4 and Xbox One, they will upgrade. So Xbox One's, people always look at these sales and like, oh, Sony's running away and Xbox is doomed because they're not selling. But it's like their market share is not decreasing, because people always forget that PS4 and Xbox One still exist, and they've got all the same games, all the same service games, all the same casual games. Fortnite's still updated on those systems. We saw Dark Souls 2 shut down its servers on Xbox 360, but they were like, don't worry, the PS4 and Xbox One servers are still live. Because there's still a non-trivial amount of people still playing on that last gen because we had so much backwards compatibility this generation. So there's that aspect too. And like when you get all these headlines constantly, it makes you forget that the business is not necessarily selling consoles; it's selling games, whether on PS4 or whether on PS5. You know, it actually
keeping you in the ecosystem.
Yeah, exactly, and it can
Spending
actually
money
be
in the ecosystem.
Yeah, spending money in the ecosystem. And it could actually potentially be a bad thing to try and artificially inflate your console numbers when the margins are so bad. If a PlayStation 4 user who only plays FIFA and Call of Duty, if they buy a PS5 and they continue to only play FIFA and Call of Duty, that's worse for Sony than if like the console had sold to an enthusiast who might buy loads of games, you know? Or if
that
someone
basically is what's happening.
That is what's happening. That's why the margins are bad, and that's why the market share, the monthly active users, is on growing as fast as you might expect if you were only looking at console sales. Is because those aren't necessarily new users. A lot of them are just PS4 users who've just now got a different way to access the ecosystem.
That's why the PS Plus subs didn't go up.
Exactly.
Because so many are playing Rocket League free to play, Fortnite free to play, Call of Duty Warzone free to play.
So Xbox is still in the game, but like the headlines would have you think that PlayStation 5 is just completely dominating, destroying Xbox right now. And in certain markets, yeah, surely they are. But the
one
markets,
metric they are.
Yeah, and that one metric they are. And it's markets they've always dominated. And Xbox can come into those markets from the side on PC and mobile. And and Xbox is still very firmly in the game in like their core markets, So I wouldn't. You got to think about these things when you see these headlines which talk about sales and Xbox doing really badly and stuff like that. You have to think that the install base is not just Xbox. It's not just Xbox Series S and X, and it's not just PS5. It's also PS4 and it's also Xbox One, because those systems are still very much supported. You got to think of it like that. Seriously.
Cognito, you got any like thing you want to add to this?
I mean, this is great information. It's great stuff. I just love listening. I think for me also, I think about the strategic nature of this, and I think about, we have to be honest, there's a little bit of warfare involved here. And I thought about this when the prior links happened with Xbox's roadmap, and I'm like, man, another real detrimental thing to them is that, man, now Sony knows potentially when they could be thinking about a new console or when to start a new generation. And of course, plans can change. Phil has come out and said, it's unfortunate what happened. Plans can change. But now in the inverse, with this situation, we have to be honest here. Xbox can literally utilize this information to their advantage. And we'd be fools to think that just like when Microsoft acquired ABK, there were meetings, by PlayStation about how they're going to react. There are meetings from Xbox about this. I firmly believe, because you literally have the blueprint to your competitor as far as their spending, how they view you, what pivots they can. And I believe that information can be used against them. Now we could put on a public face and say, oh, it's so sad what happened to you. You know what I mean? But the reality is this is damaging on multiple levels, because yes, Xbox now has the information on what the ins and outs of your business are. How do you make your money? How do you, what your concerns are with Xbox, and it can be utilized. So there's definitely strategy here, on both sides. Again, not everything is concrete. There will be some pivots, but this is damning because, like you said earlier, Rand, for the most part, Sony's extremely secretive. You rarely get, behind the curtain on how the things are made, the sausage is made, so to speak. Like, you never really get that information. This is critical data that's out there. So we're going to see, because I've always said the ABK deal, as far as, the long-term ramifications, especially now 2024 is about to approach. The influction of those games into Game Pass, in conjunction with Xbox Game Studio lineup that's about to happen. And I've called it the avalanche. I've told people, even during 2022, I've always said Xbox future is still bright. Oh, well, Cog, it's looking. I said, look, that was a snafu. I can't, dismiss what happened. But as we saw, 2023, strong year for the most part, right? That cadence, starting to get into that cadence of the quarter release. And then we know for the most part what's going to happen in 2024. Now you infuse ABK into that. And then we know 2 pieces off the chessboard have been taken. There is no Last of Us factions, and Wolverine, which some may thought was in 2024, is not. So now that opens it up more, right? And it really gets me thinking. Like, there is a concern. It's short term. What is their roadmap in 2024 to compete with what we think Xbox is going to do with a Hellblade potentially, with a Avowed, with a Towerborn, with the ABK infusion, whether it be in the summer with what you call Diablo, and in conjunction with their DLC. You've mentioned earlier, that Call of Duty. I'm a huge fan. Was it the Black Ops one, right? That's coming out. I believe you said Rand. I forgot which one.
Yeah, the sequel to there's like the Gulf War one coming out next year, and then a sequel to Black Ops 2 supposedly is coming out in 2025.
Right. And then all these projects, and to the point where we're getting to the point where Xbox has so much that they're now having to spread out and make multiple shows. Obviously, the Game Awards got the OD announcement, the Blade announcement, things of that nature. Things are starting to get into that cadence for Xbox. And when you have a company, and I've had this discussion with Colin a lot, like he's even admitted, he's like, yeah, like they may be able to do 2 games a year, major, and then, you have a competitor, let's say 4 to 5, 80 to 85 Metacritics, and who knows what Hellblade, but let's say Hellblade is a 90 Metacritic, right? It starts to you're dealing with someone who has more resources than you and a service that could have a cadence. Again, if things align, like how 2021 did, it could get ugly. So you've got to pivot. You're already behind, right? And now we know this is not good information for your enemy. That's basically how I'm looking at it from Sony's perspective.
Right.
I just had a thought, right?
Mm-hmm.
Could this potentially, first of all, open up Sony to getting sold, right?
Mean Sony selling PlayStation?
Sony selling itself or being acquired, right?
Oh, Nick?
By like an Apple.
Oh, you read my mind.
Nick was. I know Nick's been on that boat for a while.
Yeah. And
thank you, Rand. I've been saying it for a long time.
And it's really interesting because right now there's a big brouhaha in America because a Japanese company is trying to buy United States Steel. I don't know if you've noticed this, but that's like, it's a huge political thing because obviously America's steel industry is kind of iconic. And for a Japanese company to buy that up, it's facing pressure from, bipartisan pressure from Democrats and Republicans to examine that in more detail. But Japan and America are on this sort of love-in at the moment, where they're linking up their militaries and they're talking about doing a trade deal and all this kind of stuff. Maybe they're just like, yeah, okay, you can buy US Steel, but we want Sony. Let Apple buy Sony.
Let Apple buy Sony.
Yeah, because I could see that being the fate of Sony because let's face it, PlayStation as a brand's not going to go away. It's too iconic. I can see mismanagement giving them some tough years, and I can see like them pivoting being a tough period for the company, But PlayStation will not go away. Like someone somewhere will buy them up or bow them out or merge with them. And for me, like nobody makes more sense than Apple. It's absolute. Yeah, it's absolutely.
I'm actually shocked Apple haven't gone for them earlier because it's such a perfect fit.
Yeah, I would think so. Maybe Apple's just dumb. I don't know.
But
it would be bad. I think it would be bad, and I think it'd be bad for Xbox as well. From a from their perspective, it'd be good from a competition perspective potentially, but it'd also be like, really intriguing, And I think, like Justy Spot in chat says, Apple would sell the PS6 for $5,000. Yeah, Apple would sure as hell put the prices up. And one of the slides that was really controversial was that Sony was saying like we'd have to sell games at anywhere between like $80 to $90 to $100, you know.
Yeah.
And Rand, I actually want you to put that in chat, Rand. Can you put a poll in saying would you pay $100 for a 95 AAA Metacritic game?
Okay.
Would you pay $100? Stick that in chat.
Would you pay $100 for a standard AAA
95 Metacritic?
95 Metacritic. Why does it got to be 95 Metacritic? Why not just any standard game?
Well,
Standard AAA game.
because we giving it the benefit of the doubt here, because the assumption is that Sony thinks it's worth it. Sony thinks it's worth it because their games are bangers.
Yeah,
so
but in this scenario, if Sony raised the price of their games to 100, do you think everybody else isn't going to raise their price to games to 100, or you think they'd be the only ones?
Yeah, well, I think Sony would be the only ones that could get away with it.
Okay, standard 90 plus Metacritic.
$100 US.
Yeah, $100 US.
Yeah,
I don't know about
Nick,
that.
Nick, no one knows there's any other kind of dollar. Come on, no.
I don't know about that, because that
No
becomes
one's heard of your Australia dollars, your dollar.
That would become almost like, it would be like 160 Australian dollars. There's just no way.
Yeah, I
Right.
don't really think this is like the best question to ask our audience, because if you're asking them to be like, would you spend $100 US for a standard Sony 90 plus Metacritic
It's kind
game?
of a loaded question, but like I can't help, but I'll put.
I mean, I put the poll up. Polls up.
I can't help but think that like this might be the way things end up going, you know, because they're already trying to make games $100 by baking in FOMO, right? They're trying to sell games for $100 by giving you 5 days early access. So they're trying to access that market of people who will spend $100 by giving them a little perk, right? So they're already flirting with this idea. And maybe that's the way you do it. Like the people who can afford it, the people who got more money than brains, they will, you know, pay for the FOMO early access. And I've done it myself, you know. I'm saying people with more money than brains.
But would you do it would you do it if it was just the standard price without any of the perks, though? That's the question.
If it was a game I truly loved, I would do it.
Sure.
Personally. But I'm
but
someone
here's the
with
thing.
a lot more means than I had when I was in my
really like
early
Spider-Man 2, and I can use any game that I buy as a write-off for my business. And I don't think I would spend $100 on Spider-Man 2. I don't think it's worth it. I think I don't think there's a lot of games worth $100, to be honst with you.
Diablo's worth $100, bro.
I think people become very more selective.
I would pay $200 for a World of Warcraft expansion.
Oh my god! I think it would hurt if you price games at 100. I think you're gonna have people who would fall off and wouldn't buy stuff. I think new IP is basically impossible to sell to people at $100 because who's gonna take the risk? I think subscription services at that point become even bigger because you can play more games for less money. You can walk down a really slippery slope. Like, if you're going to... Grand Theft Auto could do it. And I think Grand Theft Auto is literally the only one who could. I don't even think... even think a Last of Us Part 3 or God of War Ragnarok 2 or any of Sony... I don't think they could. I think their sales would be cut so... I think their sales would see such a decrease. They would have to go on sale. Well, look at like stuff like Avatar. $70 launch. Shit was 40% off. Like 3 weeks later, 2 weeks later. That's the sort of that's the sort of thing you would have. Is like maybe people would pay for Spider-Man, but then it's like, are all Sony going to make is Marvel games and licensed IPs the only ones who can actually afford $100? I don't know. I think you're getting in $100. I think you're talking about literally the end of like AAA gaming period. Because you want to know why? You want to know why? Because you know what's waiting in the wings for people that don't want to spend that money? All those free-to-play games where you can play as much or as little as you want and not spend a goddamn dollar.
Well, maybe that's the answer. Maybe you know, that's probably why we've got these FOMO tiers, right? You call them a FOMO tier. The FOMO tier, you pay $100 and you do get it 5 days early. That's basically the same thing. You pay what you want, right? And it was funny because, like I mentioned earlier, I was talking to Gen Z cousins earlier when I was visiting my grandma about how much games cost. and they were talking about how Genshin's free, and that means it's great. And I says, well, how much have you spent this year on Genshin? And I got and bear in mind, these are like, you know, the students, you know, uni, not exactly, you know, swimming in cash. They can't put games on their tax return like Rand. And they were like, oh yeah, well, I suppose I have spent like £300 on Genshin Impact this year, you know, stuff like that.
But hold on, that's £300 spread over a 12-month period.
Yeah, sure.
What else is going on in the world right now? People are swimming in debt because of things like Afterpay. Can't afford the thing up front. They can't afford the thing up front, so they pay it off in installments over 2 months, 3 months, 4 months.
You mean with interest or whatever?
Getting themselves into massive debt because they want to buy this thing, but they can't afford to pay it all up front, so they pay it off over time.
It's kind of like the US national debt.
Yeah, it's kind of in that same ballpark. You know, I say I wouldn't spend, and I don't spend $100+ on games anymore up front. Yet I've spent God knows how many hundreds of dollars on Fortnite. I didn't just fork out $100 up front.
What's the most expensive skin in Fortnite?
Don't even know. I just bought the Ninja Turtles.
How much was that?
It was 3,200 V-Bucks, which is about, I want to say, $35, give or take.
Jesus.
Off the top of my
head. Dude, those are like Overwatch prices, man. See, why does Fortnite get away with that? Everyone's cool with that. And everyone gets mad at Overwatch.
It's the Ninja Turtles, dude.
They got everybody in pop culture, man. They got everybody.
I don't give a crap about Ninja Turtles, man.
This is what people don't understand. Like that's why Halo's prices were so outrageous. They were charging Fortnite level dollars just for random shit no one knows or cares about. Fortnite is charging a lot, but they're giving you the Ninja Turtles. They're giving you the Doomslayer. They're giving you John Wick. They're giving you.
So you're telling me the solution then is to have a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle skin in Halo?
I said ages ago that they should have partnered with Marvel and had Iron Man outfits in Halo.
But you get the lore people really upset about that.
Yeah.
Why? Who cares? They want to make money, don't they?
You want Halo to continue?
Carolina Gamer 28 says you're the problem, Nick.
Ooh.
Nick, what the hell are you buying skins for? You are a Muppet.
No, I'm the problem. I know I'm the problem. I like that. My son went and got the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles as well. Like he went and bought them too. It's the Ninja Turtles.
We won't discuss how much I've spent on the Diablo cosmetic store.
Dude, I know somebody. One of my friends spent $5,000 on Neverwinter stuff.
Oh wow,
Neverwinter.
Yeah.
That's not even a good game.
Well, the thing is, they also spend like, I'll be like, so how much have you spent in Diablo? Ooh, about 600. How much have you spent in Genshin? About $2,000. How much have you spent in Honkai Star Rail? Oh, about 500. Like,
damn.
Yeah, and it just spends money or whatever. It's like they just get, you know, and
Wales, baby.
I mean, hey,
Wales.
I play Call of Duty. You know, when I used to play Warzone. My buddies would spend money. Maybe they spend $100 or $200, and they funded me because I didn't spend a goddamn dollar on any of that shit, and I never will.
Real.
Well, unless you come up with some Wheel of Time stuff, then I might actually spend money on
Wheel
it.
of Time, there it is.
You got to hit what Rand wants. You know?
Everybody's got that vice.
Maybe I would. But I do have to say, Jez DM'd me and says it's 3:00 in the morning for him.
Oh, yeah.
So
Slate.
I told him to leave,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll finish up. But he's still here.
No, stay to the end.
Let's
not go to 5 hours.
Okay, sure. Well, we got to end soon anyways because I got to get going. But we still have a bunch of super chats, Patreon questions. We're probably gonna have to just do give people double questions next week, like all the questions from this week and then all the questions for next week, and just do double questions next week because I don't think I can get to them. Right? Because we started so late. So any of the Patreon members watching with your question, we'll answer your question next week, and you'll get another one. So we'll just do double questions next week because it is getting late. I know Nick, he's been in here a while. Cog's been here a while. You know, do you guys want to stay? Because I got to read through these super chats, or do you guys want to
Fine.
head out? You're
Yeah,
fine.
You have to
I'm
go
by
soon?
myself. I'm by myself at home, and it's 2:10 in
Okay.
the afternoon.
Oh, he chilling it all shit.
Well,
He
yeah. Well,
Ted,
so,
I gotta
I
get
mean,
moving.
his family went out for a swim, so
Yes.
you know.
Ain't there sharks and stuff in Australia's
No,
water?
mate, in a pool. In
No,
a
there's like
pool.
there's like spiders that are, you know, you got to watch out for those.
What
right?
about snakes?
Yeah, you
Swimming
got
sea snakes in the pool, bro.
Lots of snakes. There's lots of
What
snakes.
about
in
crocodiles, bro?
I don't know.
What about
Not where
stingray?
I am.
What about
What is a
stingray?
stingray in the swimming pool?
We do have a lot of stingrays and manta rays in our beaches and stuff.
Oh no.
It's funny. My parents live like basically on the beach, and I remember last year when I was going there, I went out. They were on the beach they're at. It's one of those beaches that's super shallow, even like 100 meters out. It's still really shallow, like to your knees. And I'm walking along, I'm walking out, and I look down to my right, and I'm like, is that a shark? And there was this shark a meter away from me, and I'm trying to remember the type of shark. I think it's called a banjo shark. And
Oh,
it
I know
was just
banjo shark.
It was like right there, a meter away from me. So I started chasing after it, and it was just like full on bolting. I'm like screaming out to
Pacing
everyone.
after? Oh no.
Yeah. It was like they're only little banjo sharks. Banjo sharks aren't big. They're only like small
You know,
sharks.
Or maybe Nick
speaking-
is secretly teasing Banjo. with that.
you know, it's funny you mentioned Banjo, right? Because
Oh,
I've seen
Lord.
people talk about, hey, how come they couldn't make Banjo for $80 million like Insomniac made Ratchet for $80 million? That would work. But I wanted to say to them, like, if you made a Banjo game for $80 million, you're never making your money back on that ever. Like,
Yeah.
it would sell like $5 million worth of product, and that would be it. You take the
Well,
biggest
this is
L
why.
on it.
Well, this is why I've always said if they do make Banjo, put it on Switch.
Yeah, put it on
Put it on the
Nintendo.
goddamn Switch.
Probably
Yeah.
would. They probably would.
I mean, it'd be good on Game Pass, but I just don't think the audience really exists for it. I want my Banjo Bros to get their game, but anyways, Lord Cognito, I know you probably got to head out, so
Yeah, I
I want to
gotta
thank you for coming on here, for the wisdom that you're always dropping, for that wonderful street metaphor you gave. You know,
Local
ILP
weed
defining
dealers.
Duke royalty is here, so.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, let everybody know. I mean, everybody knows where you at and who you are, but you know.
First off, happy holidays, gentlemen. You know,
Mhm.
most likely we'll speak to most of you until after the holidays, but happy holidays to everyone coming through the Xbox 2. The invite was appreciated. Didn't know. I'm happy.
Happy New
I
Year
got.
too,
I,
mate.
oh yeah, absolutely, Nick. And I'm happy that Jez was here too, because I didn't know if Jez was gonna be able to make it. So to see Jez there to get his infinite wisdom and his perspective is always cool. And Rand, you know, homie, so you know it's love. And as you know, the Lords are on vacation a little bit right now. Just try to prevent a little burnout because we were very busy. We rarely miss a show. And I was like, all right, guys, we're all feeling it right now. So let's take a little break. But we'll come back in the new year. Obviously on Twitter at Lord Cognito. Obviously, I do a podcast with Mr. Matty Plays, Defining Duke, who's also taking a break. And we'll be back in the new. But actually, in Defining Duke, we still have episodes in place. So we started doing like top 5 Game Pass games and fun topics and stuff like that. So check that out for Last Stand Media fam. And then, lordsofgaming.net, some cool articles that cover everything. You know, that's the topic this week. But I appreciate the invite. Always good to hold you down. And Xbox 2 is one of my favorite podcasts, and I always appreciate the invite. And I listen to you guys when I'm in the gym all the time, so I was laughing. the
Health
whole
is
way.
wealth.
Health is wealth, brother.
Health
We got to
is
get out
wealth.
there. I know we're going to all eat big, but make
Mm.
sure we do a little something. Get out, walk, just do a little something. Just do a little something.
All right,
That's all I
well,
got.
thank you for coming on, Cog, and I'll talk to you. I'll talk to you, bro.
Talk to you, brothers. Have a good one.
All right.
Take care, man.
Ciao.
So we got a little bit of time here to read these super chats that piled up during the show. We got one from Tete Master Jujitsu for Nick. He says Nick lied about Killer Instinct 2 and Bravely Default 2 on Xbox.
Yeah, I lied.
You
Yeah,
lied.
I went out of my way. I went out of my way to lie. I did it totally on purpose. Yeah,
Hey, but
stuffer.
now there's going to be a Killer Instinct 2, probably. You know, so
And, you know, Bravely Default might be one of the games Square Enix decides to bring to Xbox.
yeah. Aramix says
I don't know.
I know the news just broke today, but any chance Jez knows more about what happened with Versus Evil Studio closure? Love Pillars of Eternity. Yeah, Jez, you didn't know that they published Pillars of Eternity, did you?
Didn't they? Did they just port it?
Well, they might have
I don't
ported
know.
it, or I think they're the ones who ported it to Xbox. Actually, the console versions.
Oh, right, okay. Yeah, I don't know much about it. I guess they're just another casualty of this. I don't know.
What
industry
garbage is
correction
that?
issue.
Like laid off 2 days before Christmas. Oh yeah, we're going down.
It sounds like the whole
yeah,
publisher was shut down.
the whole everything was shut down. It's just like how crappy is that? Like a couple days before Christmas, you get shut down.
Yeah, it sucks.
Morgan Jones says, just
That's the
wishing you guys a Merry Christmas from New Zealand. Love your work, guys. Keep it up. Thank you. Fellow New Zealander Nick is here. So KS Might says, will World of Warcraft come to Xbox? And if so, when? We need the two insiders to answer this. Ding dong, the witch is gone. Goodbye, Bobby. No one liked you anyways. So keep it short and simple. Will World of Warcraft come to Xbox? And if so, when?
I think it will, but it might take a couple of years.
And Nick, you agree that it'll come to Xbox probably?
What will come to
World of Warcraft.
It would make sense to me.
Yeah. Do you think also World of Warcraft
to
would come to PlayStation as well? Is that something that, like, if you're gonna do, you might as well bring it everywhere? It's not like it.
It's one of those questions. Like, what are they valuing more? Are they valuing money more, or are they valuing bringing people into their ecosystem more? Like, if they were to roll the World of Warcraft sub into Game Pass Ultimate, you would increase your Game Pass subs exponentially. So if they want to fluff up their numbers a bit, roll the sub in. I've got a mate who's obsessed with World of Warcraft, possibly more than Jez. I know that's hard to believe.
I doubt it.
He's one of our patrons who is massively obsessed with World of Warcraft. And he was like, as soon as Microsoft's announced their intent to acquire ABK, like the first thing he thought of was like, oh my God, please roll the sub into Game Pass Ultimate. Like that.
They won't do that. I will say I don't think they'll do that. And it's because the business model is very specific to WoW. It's a mature business model. It's existed like that for years. You start putting that into Game Pass, it skew all kinds of things. I don't think they'll do that. That's why, like, things
I don't
like
know if they will. I'm just
I know, but a lot of people ask me this all the time. I just really don't think they'll do it. What they will do though, they'll probably give you perks. So like how right now sometimes you get mounts for World of Warcraft through Amazon Prime. I can see some of that stuff moving over to Game Pass, where it's like you got Game Pass and then maybe you can get a mount or cards in Hearthstone or cosmetics for Diablo. I just got an email now about five card packs for Hearthstone with Amazon Prime Gaming. I can see all of that stuff moving to Game Pass in the coming year, but I don't think they'll put the full sub in it. But yeah, I do think it'll come. And it makes a lot of sense to bring some synergy to Game Pass, even if it's not the full sub.
Yeah, I mean, I think it will too. It's just a matter of time with everything. Nintendo Don the Otaku. Every Nintendo console is BC except when changing media format. Cartridge to disc to cartridge. Don't see the next console not being BC. Well, you better hope so, or else we're coming for you, Mr. Otaku. We have Joe Repco, a.k.a. Flame, member 30 months. Happy holidays, Xbox 2 Woo. Thanks for the year of quality entertainment and insight. Also, High Lord Beefy, and Nick. Hope you all have a great holiday. Hope you too. Hope you do as well. Bigelow 25. I think more than anything from Xbox, I want them to have better marketing and localization to do something with console sales. Yeah, I think localization matters a lot, especially if you're trying to reach 3 billion gamers. Gamers playing in their own language is something that you think people would want, and they haven't really done a good job of that in Europe, which is why nobody buys Xbox in Europe. You can't really.
Actually, I saw a thread of someone from South Korea complaining about the quality of Starfield's localization.
Well, it's like
I think it was Starfield.
You can't really ignore an area for years and years and years and expect them to just like bounce back, right? Like they ignored Europe for a long time, and it's like you reap what you sow, essentially.
Sure.
Prax says, "Hey guys, longtime podcast listener, first time watching live. Just wanted to say I really appreciate you guys and hope you have a great holiday." Well, thank you.
Thanks so much.
Radimus Cisco, member for 29 months. Appreciate you, man. Bean got that dope. Says, Jez, what is it about Persona 5 you hate so much? Ooh.
I think it's not hatred, but it's like a really story-based game, right? And I kind of feel like I need to focus on it. A lot of the times when I'm playing games recently, I'm kind of working at the same time or multitasking, like doing this podcast. So it's kind of like I can't read Persona and really enjoy it while multitasking. So I tend to play like a lot of brain dead games. And also like after work, I'm often just so tired that the last thing I want to do is like, I don't find it relaxing to read after I've spent all day reading and editing and stuff like that. So there's nothing wrong with the game. It's definitely a me problem. And like when I do have like a relaxing moment, I really do enjoy story-based games. I just haven't had much of them moments this year. But hopefully I will have in the next week or so while the company's closed.
Jeff D
There's
says,
nothing wrong with the game.
Happy holidays. Thanks for the great podcast. Thank you, Jeff. Meat Puppet says, question, what games being 100 plus gigs will Xbox and PlayStation start to make bigger internal hard drives with them being easier to swap at home? I mean,
it's a good question. That's a good question. You know, like I was literally looking up guides on how to expand the storage of the Asus ROG Ally because you can do that. You can unscrew it and put a new M2 drive in there, a little mini one. Because the Asus ROG's only got like 200.
Well, yeah,
gig,
but I mean, like
something
PlayStation
that.
sort of has this already figured out because you can put your own in there and you can put up like 8 gigabytes in, and I guess like, oh well, it's not. Oh, you know, the user's got to take it apart, whatever. With Xbox, it's like, yeah, it's easy, but they only offer up to 2 terabytes, and they're quite expensive.
Yeah.
Xbox really kind of screwed the pooch on.
And also,
the
CF Express is slow.
Yeah,
it's slow. You know, it's kind of like compared to what you can get now with the Samsung Evo NVMe, like the CF Express standard that Microsoft's using for its memory cards, and it has to be the same speed. It's slow, you know. So I do think probably next year Microsoft will follow Sony on that front, unless they develop something proprietary. But I can't see that happening, because it end up being Samsung anyway, probably. But yeah, it's I think they will follow Sony and let you put your own hard drive in. That makes sense to me, I think.
Gamer by Choice says, great conversation, guys. Hope these outlets don't report on leaks in the future because they just painted themselves in a corner. They will look biased. Indeed. Keyshawn Thompson, member for 24 months. 24 months, let's effing go. Appreciate you, man. Fresco says, these development costs is the reason why Microsoft invested in gaming AI helps reduce time and cost. Well, I mean, that's the hope, is that it helps reduce the cost of these games and then you can put them out faster, but the worry is that it's going to take jobs away from humans and you might get a lesser product for it. So that's the fear. The hope is that it just enhances people's efficiency and then you can get more stuff done. You can get more things done faster with, you know, less money. But I don't know. Human greed exists, right?
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see how that stuff plays out. Like, will it be used as a tool or will it be used as a replacement? And I think like people can tell when something's been done with AI. There's like there's a blandness about AI that humans can't kind of replicate. So I do think it'll be used as a tool to help. I can't see a game developed 100% with AI being super successful, but much like those books that have been flooding Amazon that were written with ChatGPT, I don't think any of them have been successful yet.
Yeah.
People are using them to make children's books and stuff, and people are rejecting it so far, but we'll see what happens. And nobody really knows where all this is going. Maybe they'll just create Skynet and destroy the world. I don't know.
Yeah. Noob Sabat says, Rand, so what you're saying is King was right again. There will be no PS6. Oh, there will 100% be a PS6. Absolutely. Sony's business is too heavily predicated on the success of PlayStation for there not to be another system, right? I mean, Nick, right? You think there's a PS6 coming, right? You don't think they drop console.
Why wouldn't there be?
Well, this is the thing. King David is is his whole thing is that Sony's in such bad shape they're never like the PS5 is the last PlayStation console. There isn't any after this.
But what's the bad shape they're in? They're not right now. They're not in terrible shape.
I'm just saying that's his prediction that there's no PS6. PS5 is it. It's the last one. So
I'd be surprised when they can pretty much guarantee that they'll sell 100 million PS6s just for existing.
They just got to figure out their costs.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. That's why I keep saying Sony's in such a tricky position because they simply can't stop doing what they're doing. Maybe the next PlayStation, what I could see as a scenario is maybe the next PlayStation not going for bleeding edge tech.
Yeah,
possible. I mean, I'm not saying
it was kind of interesting. Like in some of these Sony strategy documents, there's virtually no message of VR whatsoever.
There's no mention of PS5 Pro or PS6 either. So
that's true, I suppose.
But I mean, yeah, PSVR 2, yeah, that's dead. You know that's dead.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if there's a third PSVR. I'd be very surprised. That would be a bit silly on their part.
Wouldn't it be funny though if they kill PSVR 2 and they don't do a third one, and then that's when like VR takes off.
VR takes off.
VR finally takes off or whatever.
You know, it's funny because I read an article yesterday where I think it was in Bloomberg. It might have been Jason. Someone wrote an article in Bloomberg where they were like, it was an analysis of Take-Two's purchase of Zigna because they bought Zigna and then the mobile market imploded because after COVID, like it's been trending downwards and sort of stabilized now, but it's been trending downwards ever since. And now we've got this, you know, all these new Chinese regulations. Like the Chinese market was like the golden goose, you know, for mobile gaming. So it's kind of like, maybe Take-Two came in way too late to take advantage of this. But it's funny, you know, timing is hard with some of this stuff.
Yeah, I think it's more that's down because of like their pipeline. I remember I did see people talking about that though, but yeah. Puckish Rogue says, "Sup guys, just got in. What I miss? A whole bunch of stuff. You got 4 hours to catch up on." Spartan, he says, "Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to you, Randall Thor 19, Jez, Lord Cognito, and Special Nick. Have a great weekend. You too."
Thanks, mate.
Puckish Rogue says, "Hey Cog, how hype was the Tekken 8 story trailer?" I'm sure Cog thought it was pretty awesome. Remember, for 25 months, Hargeet Chani gave away codes for both Spider-Man and Miles Morales on Steam. I'm sure people saw that. Thank you, Hargeet. And hopefully people who got
Miles
that...
Morales.
You got Miles Morales?
Dude.
Oh, so you...
Oh my God.
You got You love free stuff, don't you?
Oh my God. That's hilarious.
That's crazy. So, are you gonna thank Hargeet for the free code?
Look, I've been asking Hargeet to buy me Resident Evil 4 on Xbox for the longest time, which he has not done. So
okay. I see how it is.
I got Spider-Man Miles Morales. So thank you very much, Hargeet, for that. Oh, look, I saw the code there, and I'm like, because I've tried to get Hargeet's codes in the past whenever I've watched like Game On Daily or whatever. Or Boom, or whatever show Hargeet happens to be on. I've always tried to get his codes, and they literally never able to get it. And I expected the exact same thing to happen here. I'm like, you know, people are so quick at getting codes. So I just like copied it just to see, put it into my Steam thing, and whoop,
look at that.
Miles Morales.
Spatter says, "What happens first, Gears remake or Rand on camera?" Rand on camera will happen first. Sean says, "Merry Christmas, everyone except Special Nick." Okay.
Oh wow.
Said that?
Sean Hamelwright said that. "Merry Christmas to everyone except Nick." Kate Master Jujutsu says, "What's the studio getting shut down? I think it's Media Molecule." I don't know. We'll have to wait and see.
What do they make?
They made Dreams.
I don't understand. Are we sure that's not a timing thing? Like, are we sure that those documents weren't referring the past? Like, you know how there was the confusion with Ratchet, and the first story was that Ratchet and Clank lost million or something. And then it turned out that that was an old slide that was about projections. And then turns out Ratchet actually did make money. And a lot of these slides that have been coming out, some of them are old, some of them are current, some of them... Are we sure that the studio closing thing wasn't old? And it wasn't about maybe Pixel Opus?
I mean, I don't know. I'm sure...
Might have been.
It could have been. But I know there's a lot of people discussing it in the Discord.
Okay.
I don't know. I have no idea. Maybe... I know that the Sony published that Firewall Ultra game exclusively to PSVR 2, and I know they're shutting down at the end of the year. Maybe it was like a partner studio like that, not necessarily like a studio they owned or something. I don't know. Hargi Chani says, like I was saying on Boom's podcast a couple days ago, PlayStation should put their PC releases in PC Game Pass. PlayStation won't take the risk, but Xbox will take the bag. It's a win-win for both Xbox and PlayStation.
I like that.
You like that idea?
I think Sony wouldn't do it purely for ego, even if it did benefit them. But I like that idea.
100% they wouldn't.
Yeah, 100% they wouldn't. I think they want people to play their games on PC too, and nobody plays games on Windows Store.
Actually, the Windows Store is like, I mean, they don't play on the Windows Store, but if you're playing it on PC Game Pass, you are playing it on the Windows Store. And PC Game Pass is the fastest growing segment of Microsoft's business right now.
But yeah, I think their ego would prevent them. I don't think they like the fact that Death Stranding came to PC Game Pass at all.
No, they don't. And you'll notice that the DLC for Death Stranding never came to the Windows Store.
Yeah.
You got to one thing I keep saying, and I'll continue to say it. Sony or PlayStation still very much leans into the whole console war thing.
They
Always have.
definitely do, yeah.
Always
Definitely.
have. They're masters of it. That's why they have such a passionate, fervent fan base.
Passionate is one way of putting it.
I was doing my best to be
passionate.
Until
console passion. Wasn't that what people were saying?
Passionate and fervent. Words
Passionate
that you should use going forward.
Interesting.
Abdi says Spider-Man movie rights revert back to Disney if Sony is sold. Is that true?
Is that true?
I don't know. I don't know if that's true or not. Is that something that's an actuality? Like if Sony was sold, that Disney gets the plausible Spider-Man movie rights back? Mm-hmm.
Sounds plausible.
No, that as far as I know, the only one of the scenarios that Disney gets the rights back is if Sony doesn't release a movie every X number of years.
Yeah, if they don't have like a Spider-Man movie in production or something like that. Yeah. Which is why they
every
always
now and
have
again
one in
they'll
production.
Yes, that's right. Because if they don't, I think it's every 5 years or something like that. Someone can correct me, but if they don't have a movie every so number of years, Disney gets the rights back.
Yeah. You know, the poll that we did is would you pay $100 US for a standard Sony 90+ Metacritic AAA game? It's got 439 votes. 87% say hell no, with 13% saying absolutely. So,
I think more people would buy that than the letting on, to be honest.
Maybe. I guess maybe it would depend on the game, though. For sure.
AAA Pokemon would.
George says, what I got from the leaks is that PlayStation's future is in a really vulnerable position, and now we know why they're pushing gas, PC, and mobile. Yes, 100%. Now you know why they were pushing for the live service stuff. And it's all about margins at the end of the day. It's all about the margins. It's the margin is the difference between what you spend and how you profit, right? So when you've got like some businesses like Apple, they're selling an iPhone has sick margins. They're cheap to make because they use slave labor and cheap parts, and they sell them at a premium because people are zombies and they don't buy the superior Samsung phones. So the margins on technology is really good. Like, excuse my hyperbole, but the margins on games are not that great. You know, especially when you factor in how much it costs to run a store, how much it costs to pay your devs, and how much it costs to manufacture hardware. But then you sell it. You're not selling it for Apple prices. You're selling it at cost, right? Because that's how the business historically worked. I think and that's why inflationary pressure can really eat. If your margins aren't good, inflationary pressure can really quickly wipe out your margins because you have to start paying people more because the cost of living goes up. And you instead of paying the cost
pushing the cost onto consumers, which they did to some degree by putting the price up of certain things and increasing the price of games to $70. But inflation has outpaced that, and the wage growth has outpaced that that sort of boost they would have got from that. So it's difficult, Microsoft's probably seeing similar pressures right now. But on the flip side of that, Microsoft has a lot of high margin businesses, because there's nothing higher margin than selling a piece of horse armor DLC for $30. And there was an interview recently with a Blizzard developer, and he was saying that the first horse they sold in World of Warcraft made more money than the entire expansion for StarCraft 2. Just that one horse, and that horse asset it's an old horse asset, like PS1 textures, and that made more money than the entire expansion for StarCraft. And if you're an Activision executive, you're probably looking at that and being like, why the hell are we making StarCraft expansions again? Well, shouldn't we be doing more horse armor? So we kind of did this to ourselves, especially Nick.
Yeah, especially Nick.
Because I never buy microtransactions. It's all Nick.
Yeah. Shout out to 11 Deadly 11 who gave us a nice little super sticker. And Jason Xbot says, Fleece Johnson voice, Merry Christmas, Rand, and tell Jez lock them doors and windows. It don't make me no difference if I can't take the booty, with a devil emoji and stuff. So, yeah, that's all of them. Patrons, we will do double questions next Friday, because there's probably not gonna be a lot to talk about, but we will get that done. I want to thank, obviously, Jez for being here, but more importantly,
on my own podcast,
on your own podcast, because we didn't know you were going to be here. So thanks for showing up, but more importantly, special Nick, man of the hour, here on Xbox 2 the entire time, 4 hours like you always wanted. Thank you for being here, and thank you for your input and your wisdom and your braggadociousness. Because you can always count on Nick for saying, I've been saying this on my podcast. I've been saying, he's very humble. He's very humble.
I'm a broken record.
So let everybody know where they can check out your podcast tomorrow with the one and only Grubster, the 4th annual Grubsmiths.
So 4th annual Grubsmiths Specialtacular tomorrow. That's every year we do the Christmas episode. We kick John off. And it's just Jeff Grubb and I. And it's a tradition that started 4 years ago when one day John at the last minute, just like Jez, the last minute told me he couldn't be on and I was going to have to do the podcast by myself. And I reached out to Jeff Grubb just on a whim in the hopes. And despite the fact that Jeff didn't really know us that well at the time and it was Christmas, he still jumped on with me. So
he's a trooper.
To show my appreciation, I made it a yearly thing. Grubsmas. That's just me and Jeff every year at Christmas. But other than that, I mean, xboxera.com, check out everything, our YouTube channel, all that. It's growing slowly by bit. We're not one of the big boys, but, we make do.
You make do. Yeah. And it's interesting to see what you and Jeff Grubby Grub talk about tomorrow. I hear he leaked he had pictures of the new Switch on his podcast and Bloodborne 2. What was it you were saying, Jez? He leaked like Switch 2 pictures and Bloodborne 2 and
F-Zero. Yeah, he leaked to F-Zero, new F-Zero, new Bloodborne.
Really?
Jeff Grubb just leaked everything, yeah.
I mean,
new pictures of Switch.
Really?
Yeah, go and ask Jeff on Twitter about Bloodborne 2 and F-Zero and on all that stuff. And yeah. Oh, and a AAA Duck Hunt with
AAA Duck Hunt.
Yeah, with an $80 million budget.
I can't.
And shout out to Gaming Forte, who says, I loved you, Rand. I love you too, Forte. But with that, we're going to be ending the show. I want to thank you all for being here. Hit the like button. Subscribe if you're new. Thank you all for showing up on this later episode of Xbox 2. And I hope you have a wonderful holiday Christmas with all the presents that you've ever wanted and family and hugs and kisses and chocolate milk and Santa Claus and all the good stuff.
Lots of Xbox games and controllers.
Yes. And think of me because I'll be by myself. So anyways.
All by myself.
Why would you be by yourself?
Oh, because my family's scattered to all over the place. No, I won't be by myself.
Really?
My sister's coming over. So,
Okay.
but either way, happy holidays, everybody. We'll be back on Friday. Well, actually Tuesday with the Xbox 2 Ultimate, and then we'll be back on Friday.
I'm not 100% on that. I need to find out what.
Well, or maybe we'll do it Wednesday instead. I don't know. We'll do it one of the days this week, and then we'll do Xbox.
Don't forget, it's Boxing Day.
Whatever. We'll figure it out. Love you guys. Take care.
Take care, everybody.
Later.